Okay, I have a very serious question for everyone. So listen up. What do Kim Kardashian, Chris Evans, Nick Cannon, Ryan Gosling, T.I., Alicia Keys, Pitbull, Yo Gotti, and Topanga Lawrence have in common? Go ahead, give me some fucking answers. Bunch of geniuses. Anyone? Bueller? Wrong. They are all 37 years old. Why does that matter? It doesn't really. I am just on the 37th episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast. That's what we're listening to right now. So welcome back. First off, I don't know why, but I just got a headache in the last hour and it's fucking pissing me off. Anyway, thankful to my guest this week, or thankfully because of my guest this week, I have a sign-in for cable. Okay, so this past week and a half, I have been binge watching all the good shows on cable that I have not been able to watch because I'm just, I'm not paying $200 for Comcast. Suck a dick. Anyway, I have been watching Fuck That's Delicious with Action Bronson. If people don't know what that is, he is probably a 350-pound, 5'8" white dude with a long red beard. Well, I mean, I guess he doesn't have a beard anymore. He cut it off, but it's basically him and his three friends, and they just travel around the world, and they just, try out awesome food. Bronson was like a chef before he started rapping. He broke his leg in the kitchen of his restaurant that he was working in, and while his leg was broken, he was like, I guess, chilling with his friends in like a studio, and just hopped on a mic and ended up killing it and kept rapping from there, and now he's just fucking huge. But his show's awesome. Fuck That's Delicious. I think it's the second season or third. They're all good though. Another show I've been watching that I'm kind of iffy on, but it's all right for a couple episodes is that Most Expensive with 2 Chainz. That's like basically 2 Chainz, the rapper. He is just, anytime you see him, he's just like draped in like these dope ass chains and rings, and he has like all the dopest clothes, like Gucci, all the Supreme shit, Louis Vuitton. Like that dude definitely has a dope ass stylist. But, he basically gets paid by Viceland to just go around to random places, and people just show him these ridiculous things that cost like a fucking ass ton of money. For instance, like, I think the last episode I watched, he went to this like lagoon place where I guess this dude was like a effects artist, like a special effects artist, but he made these lifelike mermaid tails that are like customized. You can get fucking piercings, certain colors to match your skin tone and your hair, like super detailed. But 10 stacks for one of these things, like you're out of your mind. 10 grand for a tail. But what I did find fascinating about that episode was that he was saying that all the people that were like working at this place that they sold these mermaid tails, they're all scuba certified, and they could all hold their breath for around 3 minutes, which just blew my mind whenever I was watching it. But the best show on TV right now, my favorite ever, is King of the Road. I'm super late to the game with King of the Road. If people don't know what that is, it's basically it's Thrasher Magazine. They pretty much sponsor 3 skateboard teams to go across, a couple states, and they give them a book that's almost like a scavenger hunt. You get points for certain accomplishments. A lot of them are like skateboarding, like doing certain tricks off of certain things, or like landmarks, or big name obstacles. So people, if they could land a trick off of like certain places, you get points for that. But they also like do other weird ass shit. You piss in your mouth, 50 points. Pierce your eyebrow, 50 points. Shit down a chimney, 100 points. What else did some people do? A dude shaved his eyebrows off and tattooed Thrasher King of the Road on him. all kinds of just ridiculous shit. It's like, it's everything that makes me feel like a kid. It's skateboarding. It's almost like Jackass-esque. And this last season right here, Element was on there. Element, Real, and who the fuck was the other team I just watched? Oh, Element, Real, and Foundation. Spoiler alert. Skip forward 15 seconds if you don't want to know who won, but Element won. And, Bam Margera was on there, and, he was like a guest. He didn't really skate too much, but it's cool to see him kind of climbing out of that like alcoholic stupor that he was in, and, being on TV. I'm sure that like Viceland and shit wouldn't invite him on the show if he was still being a piece of shit. But the show is awesome. So I binge watched both seasons of those. I'm now trying to find season 1. Not sure where to find it, but I'm going to. But yeah, super awesome. A lot of awesome skateboarders. There's professionals. There's amateur skateboarders. There's kids that are just like on flow. If you don't know what flow is, being on flow for a team is you basically just get a bunch of shit from free. You basically just get a bunch of products for free to just use and kind of promote. My favorite out of all the seasons is a dude named Jamie Foy. Okay. Jamie Foy is this he's like a big bodied skateboarder who could skate down rails, do crazy flip tricks, do gaps. This kid's fucking crazy, and he's like a chubby dude. So he's out there doing it for the big dudes. Speaking about the big dudes, let's get on to my next point. Fall is right around the corner, and I cannot wait. Hoodie season, that's all that matters anymore. I just can't wait for it to be cold. I'm over these bugs. I'm over sweating. I'm over this heat. Just do away with it. I want the leaves. I want the haunted houses. I want the ghouls. I want the goblins. I want all the scary movies. I love everything about fall. If it could be October all year round, sign me up. Another awesome part about October, the new Halloween movie is coming out, which I'm super excited about. Can't wait to see that. I think it's out October 9th or 19th, one of them, but check it out. It looks really, really good. New Halloween. And another movie that doesn't have anything to do with, fall or horror or anything that I'm super pumped to see. I bought tickets for the opening night is A Star Is Born with Bradley Cooper, Lady Gaga, and Sam Elliott. It's like, come on now. Movie's going to be unreal. Bradley Cooper, you know him from Limitless, Silver Linings Playbook, The Hangover. The dude is he's the man. I really, really like him as an actor. Lady Gaga, my wife got me into. She's a huge, Lady Gaga fan, and, I just can't wait to see them work together. And, the piece of I don't know the French term, the piece à resistance, I guess they call it. Definitely wrong, but Sam Elliott, come on now. If you ever seen Roadhouse or Tombstone, you know about Sam Elliott. Anyway, that's enough of current events. On to this main reason why everyone's listening here. This week I have a really special guest on. I don't really talk to my family too much on here, or at least I haven't yet. I talk to my mom and my wife, but I brought on my cousin. My cousin's name is John Merranko, just a regular dude. Went to school for statistics, play some futsal, soccer to stay in shape, play some hockey every once in a while. Just a regular dude. But I had him on because I have some of my most fond memories from being a kid with him and his brother and me and my brother. Him and his brother are 28 and 29, so my age and 1 year older, and they lived up in the mountains right next to Seven Springs since I could remember. But, it was super cool because they weren't close enough where we could just drive there on the weekend and come home. I guess you could, but most of the time whenever we hung out with each other, whenever we were younger, it was kind of 4, 5, 6 days at a time. So it was basically just like a summer camp for us. And we talk about all kinds of good, it's nostalgic shit in this podcast, like how we kept ourselves entertained on their 69-acre farm. And, we talk about playing war with Nerf guns. We talk about riding in their go-karts. We talk about playing paintball on their field. We talk about all kinds of shit. And we also talk about what it's like growing up on a farm with a dad who is, kind of a hard ass. And like, whenever I say hard ass, it's not a bad thing. It's just the dude is, he lives and breathes, wake up early, bust your ass, go to bed, wake up early, bust your ass, go to bed. And we talk about my Uncle Andy, his father. He was a cop for 24 years in Washington, D.C., whenever it was the murder capital of the world. So we talk a decent amount about that, which was awesome to me. Like, it was awesome hearing all these wild ass stories that I haven't heard in a long time. But yeah, so I mean, it's a really great podcast. I'm really happy that he came on. I'm glad that it went the way it did. Another one of the main things I wanted to talk to him about is me and him and his brother and my brother. We all recently just got married. His situation was a little bit different though. He has a really, really interesting story about him and his wife Amanda. She's Arab. So, we talk about the cultural differences between him and her, and what it was like to, try to date out of her, like her people. Like, it's in her culture, it's customary to date someone who is Arab, and that's the norm. But yeah, they got a really interesting story. I was happy that he talked about that a little bit and kind of opened up about that a little bit, because it was always super interesting to me. And I don't know, I was just really happy with it. Really happy with the podcast, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks for coming back for 37 episodes. Just going to keep cranking these things out every Thursday morning. Fire heat, just like a Supreme drop, son. So without further ado, episode 37 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with one of my best friends, John Merranko.
I gotta use the telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. Call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast. What's the worst part about this is like the batteries last for a long time, but there's 3 battery marks that make up the entire
You can't
battery.
plug it in?
No, it runs off of double A's, but there's 3 batteries.
Why would they do that?
I mean, it's meant to be like mobile. Like it's like a mobile recording station. But you could, like, there's 3 battery icons that make up the whole battery, and whenever one of them is gone and there's only 2 left, I get real bad anxiety. Like, what if we're talking and that second one just leaves and I have to like stop and redo it over again?
That would be rough.
It would be rough, but we make it work.
What kind of lifetime does it have?
I could probably do like I've done like 3 podcasts before it. Like, I never let it get down to the last one. If it has the last one on it, I just change the batteries out, because I just don't want to like have to interrupt people to like switch them. But whatever. I think we're good. The old levels. It's not too hot in here. The other day, whenever that dude was in here talking about the hockey sticks, it was probably 85 outside, and you can't have the AC on because it sounds like shit.
Yeah.
To me it does, but I guarantee other people wouldn't even notice it. Like, whenever I turned the fan on mid-podcast, did you notice it even?
I didn't hear it. No, I remember you mentioned that.
I don't even know why. I think it's just like I'll be listening to like all the little noises. If Antoinette comes down and like closes a fucking door while I'm doing like an intro, I'll be like, what the fuck? I have to redo it over again. Hopefully your mom doesn't listen to this or anything, because
no chance.
I swear a good bit.
No chance.
5 Hour Energy. Or not 5 Hour Energy. Yeah, we'll start off by 5 Hour Energy. So I start off all the podcasts, obviously, what's in the cup.
Well, for me, it's going to be the Monster Rehab Peach Tea.
Peach tea. Now, you were an addict for a long time.
It's true.
5 Hour Energies.
I used to get it shipped to me by the crate.
You
on
bought them
Amazon.
in bulk.
Yes, in bulk.
Now, you're obviously not a morning person. How many 5 Hour Energies were you drinking a day?
2 at least on a work day.
2 5 Hour Energies at one time?
No, I'd a couple sips, every couple hours, make it last.
What was your max intake of 5 Hour
Probably
Energies?
3.
3 of them.
Yeah.
What did you feel like?
You get shaky for sure. You can feel it.
I
had to tone it down. Now my standard, I usually go with the V8 Energy.
Yeah.
It's a good choice. It's green tea caffeine, so I assume that's not bad for you.
Do you think it's a placebo effect for you?
It definitely was a 5 Hour Energy. It was like that sour kind of like twinge whenever you take that down. I'd be like, all right, good to go.
Yeah, it's almost like I think coffee is a placebo for a lot of people.
Yeah, see, I don't do coffee. So
I know, and I think that's fascinating that you don't like coffee at all. But the 5 Hour Energy, it's obviously because like you're not like a morning person.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So when did you get into that habit?
Definitely college. It's funny because I am such a non-morning person now that when I try to think about what it was like when I used to work for my dad and like get up at 4:45 to go roof.
Yeah, to go roofing
Or
instead
get up at 6:30 to go to high school every day, no problem. Stay up late, no big deal.
Yeah.
I just can't even remember what that was like.
Well, I mean, like, so let's start off. Okay, so this podcast is a little bit different because like usually the people I have on here I don't know that well. But I've known you my entire life. You're my cousin. So I figure I think you and Peter were probably the closest I was to any cousins that I've had, just because we're the most similar in age. And I think that whenever we hung out, it was always like a week at a time or like 5 days at a time because, like, I mean, you live an hour away. So you live up like Seven Springs area. But, in the morning, I remember like whenever we were young, like the main reason I wanted to have you on here was talk about like the different ways we grew up. Okay. So like, for instance, like you grew up on like a farm pretty much and, just doing, farmer type redneck shit, wake up 6 a.m. and go have to work while other kids that are living around like me, I would wake up in the morning and like go fuck around.
Yep. To put it in perspective, it would take over 6 hours to cut our grass on a riding lawnmower. So it's like a day, basically.
Yeah. And there was no ifs, ands, or buts. It was like you had to get
weed
it done.
whacking, that's like 4 hours.
Yeah, like that's
So between me and Pete, that was just like a day, was just dealing with grass.
yeah, like that's how many acres?
Started out at 69. I think now it's about 50. My dad's been selling little bits off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. That would be the worst to cut all that grass.
Yeah, I mean, grass to cut, grass to play in, so.
That's true.
Time.
That's true. And you guys always had like the dopest spot. Like you had, there was just so much like area to play in.
What was interesting about it was, to put it into perspective, it still was like a half hour to get to the closest Walmart.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Still out there. But like 5 minutes from the Donald exit on the turnpike. So it wasn't tough to get get to Pittsburgh, just get on the turnpike, boom, go.
Yeah. But
yeah,
like we were still
remote.
close enough to like be around like some cool shit. Like there were gonna be going to Seven Springs, the Indian store, fucking Living Treasures. But like it was so different for us because like my brother older, 6 years older, so like we would wake up and he'd be doing sports or working or something, and I would just be like fucking off watching cartoons or TV or whatever. You guys would just be having to work. But like during our times of visiting, like it was like an escape whenever it was escape for both of us to travel to each other's house.
That's what I was
going to
say. It was like a culture shift both ways.
100%.
It's like going to your house. It was like going to Vegas. It was like, okay, don't have to work. Okay, no chores of any kind.
Yeah.
Go to bed whenever you want. Wake up whenever you want.
Yep.
My mom would literally come into our bedroom and sing until we woke up.
Ugh, I remember that. I do remember it.
Terrible.
So whenever we were younger, we kind of had to so my house we would be able to go do whatever, go to Kennywood, go to the mall, go wherever. Your house was kind of like we created our own entertainment.
Yeah.
I mean, not saying that like you guys didn't have a lot of shit. Like always had video games, toys. Your
Go-kart.
a go-kart. Your mom would always like hook us up. You guys had like the biggest selection of Nerf guns, cap guns.
Oh yeah.
And that's why like that was one of the main things I wanted to talk about is like nowadays kids just don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody's going out and playing guns like we did. You could just play Call of Duty.
I'm talking about like we would play guns with just like a gun with nothing that shot.
Yeah, just
like a cap
honor
gun with no
system.
caps. Yeah, honor system. But like, you know, like you said, it was different. You would come to my house and like my mom really didn't care. We were allowed to watch R-rated movies and, you know, like
Good stuff.
do whatever we wanted. But I remember
watching
like,
Escape from LA.
oh yeah, Snake Plissken. That was, man, we were probably what, like 7, 8 years old, somewhere
way
around
too
there.
young.
Way too young for all that shit.
It was beautiful.
Horror movies, all kinds of shit. And like to put in perspective for the people listening, whenever we would travel to John's house, we would either, so like a typical day, we'd wake up, and if we had to work, usually your dad was pretty lenient whenever like me and my brother were up there. But some days we would have to go out there and work for sure.
I can remember him dragging you into the thick of it.
100% I worked for
Plenty of
him.
times.
But like he was definitely like a little lenient knowing that there was like guests there or whatever. But you know, I remember times where we would go there, wake up, you know, your mom would take us out to do whatever. And if she didn't, like if it was during the week and she had work, we would just be fucking around, like playing video games, doing all this weird ass shit just because we couldn't drive and you couldn't walk nowhere. There was no buses anywhere.
Yep.
So we would just be running around the farm, whether it be like fucking fishing, riding bikes or something. But put in perspective, I was maybe like what, maybe 10, 12, and it was New Year's Eve at your house and the clock just struck midnight. And I was like, man, this is sick. Your dad rolls in and was like, all right, time to go to bed. And I was like, what? We were like 12 years old. I thought I was like a king. I was like, there ain't no bedtime for me. Because I remember American Graffiti with Harrison Ford was just coming on. And I was like, man, this movie's sick. Harrison Ford's in it. Han Solo, you're wearing a Millennium Falcon shirt. So you were a big fan of it. And I was like, we're about to watch this. And your dad's like, up to bed. And then I was like, this is fucked. Like, it was kind of, I don't know. It was kind of like, it was just a bizarre growing up.
See, you know what? It's funny that you mentioned like the forced bedtimes.
Yeah.
Because I think part of that kind of played into where I'm at now. Because like with you were more in control of your own destiny when it came to sleeping and waking up.
Yeah.
So, you know, you were, you know, you obviously you push the limits sometimes. But for the
100%.
most part, you know, you learn your limits and everything. For me, as soon as I started going to college, I was up till like 3 a.m. every night.
Yeah, it's
I wasn't
Catholic
taking
schoolgirl
classes,
syndrome.
Wasn't taking classes until like noon. And then like after 4 years of that, that was just natural.
Yeah, the way it is.
Yeah.
But that's like if people tend to like go to a private school or like an all boys school or all girls school or whatever, it's like I call it Catholic schoolgirl syndrome. It's like once they have a little bit of freedom, they go fucking crazy.
Yep.
Because like there was no like drugs or alcohol like around your house. There was never any like times where like we'd
Not
be like
back in, that's for sure.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like like now, you know, at my house there was always like there was a possibility if we wanted to go drink some liquor secretly, but like I don't even remember that being around your house at all. No. Like
Wasn't really until later whenever I started dragging you out to Connellsville and we go to
parties,
those bonfires and
yeah, that was a real good time.
Yeah.
I think I remember the first time you drank because I still never drank. Like even whenever I was younger, I still never drank. But I would always like going to the parties. Like I wanted to be involved in it, but like I just didn't want to have to drink and worry about it. But I don't know. It was sick because whenever we were younger, like I just remember. I remember a time where it was me, you, Peter, my brother, and we were 2-on-2 teams. It was me and you against Peter and Matt, and we were all playing war with Nerf guns. But like we had, like before we even did this, we had all these guns and ammunition set on the ground in the playroom. So for everyone that's listening, he had a fucking playroom that just had, it was filled with just like random models, toys, just random ass shit. Because the rooms, everything in the house had to be spotless. But if you go in the playroom had all the fun shit in there. Video games, whatever, NHL hits for GameCube.
oh yeah,
all the good stuff. But we laid out all the Nerf guns and all the cap guns and everything. We all like, it was like almost like a gearing up scene in a movie. It's like we're all like, I'm taking this one, and like we all had our grenades, but the grenades were actually like stress balls. Like I remember one of them was a globe. It was a little globe stress ball.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And we would take over the house. I don't know how your mom even dealt with us. We would just take over the house and just be running like full speed with Nerf guns, just shooting things, and it was a good time. And then like that was like some shit we did to entertain us whenever we were like fucking 10, 12 years old. And then we would go, another fun thing I remember was going into the bathroom in the playroom, turning off all the lights in there and having a big old bouncy ball and just gunning it off some walls and seeing if it hit anyone. That was so fun.
Also, dark tag.
Yeah, dark tag in the basement.
Ooh.
So it was like an unfinished basement that just had like the studs up for the walls.
Even before the studs went up, it was like steel jacks. It was like wide open. It was like a warehouse. I mean, when you're a kid, it feels like a warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Oh, that was the best.
Yeah, like all those times were just, we weren't even doing nothing. We weren't spending no money. We weren't like even really doing anything fun. I mean, it was fun, but like we weren't even doing anything constructive. We were just pretending to shoot each other and relying on the honor system. So growing up, whenever you were younger, it was always, from you remember, like you guys had shit to do, chores and everything like that, ever since you were a little kid.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. For everyone who's interested in my backstory.
Yeah.
Born in Virginia, spent a couple years in Maryland growing up, then moved to Pennsylvania when I was about 5. Pretty much from then on, that's when it kicked in. I remember one of the first things we ever had to do. So we lived in that house right by Seven Springs that had the real steep driveway.
I do remember that, yeah.
And it was gravel. And when my dad would plow it in the wintertime, all the gravel would get shoved off, into like the grass and the woods and shit. Okay. And our job was we would have to gather rocks, just pick them up out of the ground so my dad wouldn't have to pay like $5 for a ton of gravel or whatever. And we would just fill up buckets and we would get $0.25 a bucket. And I remember like I was horrified of my dad. I would have never done anything to defy him. He was huge. He shot people. He's been shot. Scary guy. Okay. And so I would never break any rules. Well, Sam, my other cousin from down south, he came up the one time and he was given that chore alongside me. Yeah. And he goes over to the driveway and he starts just grabbing handfuls of gravel from the driveway.
Oh,
and putting it in the bucket. I'm like, what are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. You can't be doing that. Shouldn't be doing that. But yeah, so that was about when it began. So I guess 5-ish, 6-ish, something like that.
Now explain the backstory of your father.
Yeah, very crazy. So it's funny because most people probably who know my dad today probably think of him as like a redneck.
Yeah,
he's been living out in the.
For people that don't know, he's just a dude that lives on. Imagine a guy that lives on 60 acres, just like a hard working type guy. Your typical wake up early, get a nice full day's work in, work your ass to the bone, and just go to bed early and wake up and do it all over again for fun.
Yeah, I mean, he started out, he was born in Pittsburgh, grew up in Braddock, and lived on the rough streets. He said there was a fight every single night in his neighborhood, okay? And he was in many fights himself.
Yeah.
Eventually, he tried going to Vietnam whenever he was 18, but then he got in a fight. Somebody broke his orbital bone.
Really?
So he couldn't go to Vietnam.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think, and he signed up like in the buddy system with his friend.
Yeah.
And his friend like went and he didn't.
Oh
because
shit!
Of his eye. He just like went by himself. So he decides, and like he grew up very poor. He always says like whenever he was a kid, his whole family slept in one bed. For dinner they would have like one can of soup split 4 ways.
Do you think that that's true or just like?
I mean, some of that could be exaggeration, but one of the things he always tells me from a young age, the reason because he spent all those years building houses and stuff, but like, he never like trained to do any of that.
Yeah.
From a very young age, he would work with people and do odd jobs around the neighborhood because he always said he would lay in bed, in a bed that's too small for everyone to fit. And, you know what it was? It was one of the beds that folded down from the wall.
Oh, really? Okay?
And he said he looked at the ceiling, and I believe this is a quote. He said, "This is bullshit. When I grow up, I'm going to build myself a big house.
Yeah.
And so started out from a young age doing little odd jobs around. So if you ever ask him, like, where'd you learn how to, how to hang a door, roof, all that. He always says, old ladies, they pay me to do this and that around the neighborhood. Before long, I knew a little bit about everything. Well, anyhow, so he wanted to get out of that neighborhood, obviously.
Yeah.
And, make some cash. Couldn't go to Vietnam. So then became a cop. Joined the police academy down in D.C., which at the time was the murder capital of the country.
Yeah.
To my dad, that was like a fun challenge, I guess.
What a fucking nut.
And he always says that was the most fun he ever had in his whole life.
Really?
Just crazy stuff. Getting in shootings all the time.
Yeah, because he was in the DEA?
No, he was a metropolitan cop, but he was narcotics investigation.
Okay. Yeah.
It was doing DEA. It might have even, I don't know if the DEA even really existed back then.
Yeah, but it was probably like the front running of it. Almost like a beat cop of the DEA.
Yep.
Where you're just fucking walking around, just doing whatever you need to do.
Undercover all the time.
So he was the undercover. He was the undercover guy.
Oh, he was undercover all the time. He would tell me stories about shit like you hear in the movies, where it's like they make you meet multiple times in multiple places, and like no one's there, just to make sure, like they make sure you're not being tailed, shit like that. I remember one story like that. Finally, whenever like they had the drugs, he like pulled the pin on the grenade. Everybody comes pouring in, and guy tries to draw on him. My dad pulls out a revolver. Okay, goes to shoot the guy. Somebody grabs the revolver and he's pulling the trigger and it won't fire
because the chamber can't spin.
They're holding the cylinder.
Yeah,
but yeah, been shot. Obviously that.
Yeah, so he got shot in the head.
Shot in the head. He was undercover.
With what? With what kind of gun? A 22? Is that what he said?
I think it was a 38.
Yeah.
It was. This was actually before, I think, before he was doing, or maybe it was after. But this wasn't drugs. This was, he had gotten a tip from one of his many informants. Might have been his favorite, Fat Chucky.
Yeah.
And they got a tip that the jewelry store was going to get robbed. And so they put him undercover behind the counter, which, like, first of all, just imagine my dad. So my dad is this
6'3"? Is he 6'3"?
At the time, he claims he was 6'2". He's shrunken a bit. But he he's a big, muscly guy, hands like leather.
Literally the most intimidating guy in the world to me besides my father.
Like the most opposite thing you could possibly imagine from somebody who's going to like help you like try on a watch or something. So they put him behind the counter. Sure enough, guys show up to rob the place. I think they searched him and they found his gun.
Oh, really?
And so dude just immediately caps him, shoots him in the left side of the head. Bullet goes like just grinds along the left side of his head. Okay. He said after the word, there was a piece of his scalp in the back of the room that got blown off the back of his head.
Jesus.
Goes down, gets up, pulls out his 38. I think he said he fired off something like 2 wild shots, like while the room was like spinning around because he'd been hit in the head. And then finally lined it up, shot the guy, I think 4 times. One of the shots, I believe, took his nuts off.
Really?
So that guy definitely had a rough time in prison, maybe still having a rough time in prison, who knows.
Wow.
But yeah, so pretty nuts. Also, I think probably, like, that's nuts, but this one blows my mind the most, actually. So one time they're chasing these guys.
I think I remember this story.
Guy gets in a car and he's gunning down an alley, okay? And he's like they ran across like some shortcut alley to get in front of this dude. Sure enough, they get in front, dude's just screaming down at him. My partner gets hit and just blasted like up over the car. So injured, he ends up like eventually having to retire because he's
really
hips and knee or whatever. And so my dad starts squeezing off shots, hits the windshield. At this point in time, he's using hollow points, and it's just, nothing's getting through the windshield.
Yeah.
Finally, he dives out of the way and fires a shot through the side window. Okay. Puts the bullet through the window. Okay. It fragments and hits the guy in the head. Okay. And so he doesn't know that he hit the guy.
Yeah.
He, dive, just fires off a shot, just watches the car, just drives straight into a building.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And goes sprinting down. Interestingly enough, so the bullet being a hollow point, it went through the glass, but began to
Fragment.
fragment. And he said they were just like stuck in his head like darts, just shards of steel,
Holy shit.
lead or whatever.
That's crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
So that's a little bit of backstory of why.
A little bit.
Yeah, why his upbringing was as rigid as it was.
Yeah, eventually, whenever he was done with all that,
How long was he in the force?
24 years.
24.
Yep. And so eventually when that was
Jesus.
all done, he was like, I'm moving up to the country where there's no human beings. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want anybody to see me. And so dragged us up there. My mom probably was not particularly happy about it.
Yeah.
She spent all of her time down in Virginia.
Yeah. Is
she's up in
that's
the
where he
snow.
met her, is down there?
Yeah. Yeah, she I think she was a bartender at like a cop. It was like some
Really?
like it was kind of like a VFW sort of deal, but it was
Yeah,
for
but-
cops, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think she was like the bartender or something like that.
Wow.
And actually their first date, whenever she showed up to like meet him, what he and his cop buddies would do with old like shitty undercover cars whenever
Yeah.
they would get like totally wrecked is they would do demolition derby.
Oh my God.
And so first date, my mom strolls up and he's just demolition derbying with people. She's like, I'm never marrying this idiot.
Now they're married
I'm married.
for years. Wow. 24 years is crazy.
Yeah.
The dude is just nuts. Now, 24 years is fucking wild. I didn't know he was going to go to Vietnam.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy to like hear about all that shit because like, like I didn't know him as a cop. You obviously didn't know him as a cop.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah. The only memory I ever have of him being a cop, I remember one time I asked my mom where my dad was and she said, oh, he's sleeping at work tonight. And that, of course, meant that he was like
undercover
doing some
somewhere.
crazy shit. Yeah, like in the middle of the night in some back alley.
My favorite story that I think was ever told is whenever he dressed up like a homeless guy
Yep.
and
The shotgun underneath the
had a
newspaper
shotgun
on
in
the
his
park
newspaper.
bench.
That's some gangster ass shit.
Those are the best pictures if you ever find them of him. Was whenever he did an extended period of time where he was like on the streets, like pretending to be homeless,
Yeah.
and he had the craziest beard. It was
I
just
bet.
like he and Matt have like that gene.
Yeah, the
Just the
psychotic
insane
where they can
beard.
just grow a beard that's thicker than a fucking rug.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely insane. I remember whenever we were younger, like we would, how any young kid does, creep around their parents' house and the rest of their house, and we would see his badges and stuff in his drawer, and like that shit was nuts to me. Because like, I mean, he was the first person that I ever knew that was a cop, but like he wasn't like the person that you just ask a bunch of questions to. Very quiet guy.
Yeah. If you get him going, he'll divulge some crazy shit.
Yeah, but like
For the
it's
most part, he doesn't go around.
yeah,
bragging
it's
about
like an
everything.
onion. Like he's definitely someone that you got to like.
Well, it's funny because it's like I said, nope. Like so many people don't even know like half of his life.
Yeah,
because
'cause,
like
like-
after that, he becomes starts building houses, doing contracting. Okay, so everyone just thinks he's some random redneck. Okay, then once he's finished with that, now he's managing the ski lift people up at Seven Springs. He's had like all these different
bizarre,
careers and,
completely different type of
different
jobs.
worlds. Yeah.
I guess they all kind of like. I guess the whole security thing at Seven Springs and cops kind of like intertwine a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of perfect because whenever he was building in the wintertime, the work kind of dries up.
Yeah.
And so that's where he would do ski patrol. And yeah, once the head of security up there retired, they're like, well, you've been working here up at Seven Springs for over a decade, former cop, let's do it. And there were some interesting stories. He's knocked out two people with one punch on two separate occasions working up at Seven Springs. The most recent one was like 4 years ago. He's 70 and he's just like knocking out people. I remember he called me and told me, he was like, one of these days I'm going to end up picking a fight with somebody who's going to kick my ass. But it wasn't today.
Yeah, he's a definitely a wild dude. Definitely, he's like I said, he's probably the most intimidating person I know besides from my father. And I think the only reason I think my father's more intimidating is because my dad could, I guess, technically hit me without worrying about it. I'm sure your dad
Also
wouldn't be too scared
huge.
either. Yeah, my dad's. I mean, they're just big guys, and like now that we're a little bit older, like I'm not too afraid of my dad now. You know what I mean? Like he's an old man. he's a little bit like he needs
Kick
some.
him in the knee, you know?
Yeah, he needs some oil in his joints. Like he's getting up there, but like make no mistake, my father was a very scary person, just like yours was. So like coming up whenever we were younger, like I mean, you listen to what the fuck your dad was saying, but like what kind of shit did you guys do besides like you were always involved with soccer, right?
Yeah, always played on at least 2 soccer teams.
And then skiing.
Skiing. Just
downhill skiing.
Ridiculous amounts of skiing. Yeah, whenever Pete and I were kids, we skied at least 6 hours on Saturday and Sunday, and then usually like 1 weeknight. So it was like ridiculous. And it's sad because it's like skiing is the one thing in the world I do better than anything. Better than my job, like better than any sport I play. Like skiing is just the most effortless thing I do in the world. And it's like now it's like Seven Springs has snow half the time in the winter.
Yeah.
You know, like whenever we were kids, when this up where I lived, when it snowed, the first snow, it would not melt until the end of winter.
Yeah.
Like for my dad plowing our driveway, there would be piles. I don't know if you remember that.
I definitely remember that.
There'd be snow piles like 15 feet high. We dig crazy tunnels and like through all that. Now it melts like, you know, every couple of weeks. So,
wonder why.
Yeah.
Thanks, Trump. No, I'm just kidding. So whenever we were growing up, we had to make our own entertainment. A few things that I wanted to touch on that were like highlights of my entire life were one of them being your mom would always take us to a place called the Indian Store. Oh, yeah. The Indian Store is not really what it's called, but it's right across the street from Living Treasures, if anyone knows where that is. But it was just this random ass store that just had a bunch of weird ass shit in there. Pelts, arrowheads, slingshots.
Probably all fake, like
feathers. It was all very, very fake.
I'm sure the arrowheads were like gravel that somebody carved up in the back.
Yeah, it was not. Nothing was real in there, but like we were all so fascinated. I remember going in there, and I remember one time it was you or Pete bought like a rabbit skin or something. You know, I remember your mom bought a slingshots one time.
Oh yeah.
But you know, like being up in that area, like kind of in the, I don't know, what would you call it, the country? You know,
the mountains.
The mountains, yeah. The mountains is a better way to say.
The general store, getting some wax bottles.
Yeah, the general store is just a place that has like every old type of penny candy. But like up there wasn't a crazy amount to do, but there was certain things that we did all the time that was like just routine, like Seven Springs, the Bears Den, playing games for hours up there. And then we would go there. We'd swim in fucking Seven Springs. I mean, like
Caddyshack from time to time.
Yeah, Caddyshack.
That's a little pricey though.
Yeah, Living Treasures. But your mom, like your mom and my mom, anytime any of us would go to each other's houses, it was just like, you know, all bets were off. Yeah. It's like, let's go do this, go do that, go do that. So it was always cool. And like I said, we lived so far away, so anytime we would hang out, it was always multiple days. Yeah. So it was like a summer camp going up there. I remember I would just be at your house for like, you know, 6-7 days. Yeah. But another thing we did is whenever we were probably, how old do you think we were when we were playing paintball? Maybe 15, 16?
Yeah, I was going to say probably low teens, I would think.
So me and my brother got paintball guns. Okay, so me and my brother had these 2 shitty paintball guns. And it was me, my brother, you, and Peter. So 4 of us, 2 paintball guns. We had to figure out something. So I don't know how we came up with this idea, but we had 2 headlamps. All right, and we would wait till it got dark. And we would wait till it got dark, and we would each person would get a gun up to the 2 people we would choose. They would both get a gun, and each person would have a headlamp on, and you would get 1 hopper full of balls, and then you would get 1 tube full of replacement balls. And you would run around, and the only way to get out is if you shot someone. If you got shot 3 times, you were out. The other person kept the gun, and another person comes in. But that was like some crazy shit that we did at your house that was like, I'll probably never ever forget that. It's just like running around your house at probably like 8, 9 at night, pitch black with fucking headlamps on, 2 paintball guns, and we're just firing paintballs. Like if you saw a light, like you would be looking in the pitch black woods, and you just see a light run by, and you would just empty your fucking balls there.
Like Matt cheated at one point too, and like
he did
had the lamp on a tree or some shit.
No. Matt found a shower door that was in your woods.
The riot shield.
Yeah, so he found my brother's a motherfucker. He found this clear shower door that was just in the woods somewhere, and this dude held it up on his arm like a riot shield, and he was just running, and we would be shooting directly at this light, just yelling like, we know you're fucking hit, but he'd be like, I ain't, you could check. But that was some cool things that we did. I always remember playing laser tag up there. Like I remember we always had laser tag, and we would play up there before we were a little bit old enough to buy things with projectiles in it. And another thing that was probably the best is whenever we went through the whole screen peeking phase for video games. We had a tube TV in the playroom, and we had Halo. So I think I had the Xbox, or my brother. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't us.
One of them. You guys had GameCube. Yeah. We were always playing NHL Hits, but we would we cut out this fucking cardboard thing. We taped it to the TV so people couldn't screen peek. So one person would sit Indian style on the floor, and the other person would sit on the back of the couch, and we would be playing. It would be like, Blood Gulch, like Halo 1, Blood Gulch. We would be playing one-on-one.
Yeah, it'd be like 10 minutes before you even saw the other person.
Yeah. No one would know where anyone was. And the only reason we even knew people were doing that is because, we all loved to snipe for some reason. So we would be trying to snipe someone, and as soon as they'd get in our crosshairs, they'd run to the side and be like, I ain't looking, I ain't screen peeking. We were all guilty of it. It's like, yeah, you definitely were. But we ended up taping that, and we would just fucking sit there, and that was how we fixed that. We definitely
people
came
even
up.
Play video games in the same room anymore? Is that a thing anymore?
I literally was just talking to JT before he left. I was like, I can't wait to talk about that, because that was a huge deal. Now kids don't do that.
One thing I'm genuinely curious about, do kids even spend a night at their friend's house anymore? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, I think that is, but I don't think kids are going out there buying Nerf guns. I don't think kids are buying Nerf guns or laser tag.
And you know what the worst part about it is? They have the best Nerf guns nowadays.
Oh my God.
Battery powered, fully automatic.
Did you see them little Nerf guns?
It's like an AK.
Did you see that Nerf gun with their little balls? They almost look like paintballs, but they're little Nerf balls, but they shoot like a fucking chain gun, and they're battery powered, and it's just like
yeah. With us, it's like you're pumping something or cranking something. I remember
the Ricochet
Matt running around with, was it the Master Blaster or
the
something
Master
like that?
Blaster was one tube with two tubes out of the front, and you filled them with regular balls, and you would just pump it, and it was just a pump thing, and it would, whichever barrel it would come out of, you never knew. But that was what you had. And the secret shotgun, where the Nerf gun would come out of the bottom of the handle. Remember, you would take the little holder and you'd slide it to the other way.
Yeah.
And the whole commercial, I remember all the Nerf commercials were the funniest. Like some kid rolled up on another kid that popped out of a trash can with this secret shotgun, and they were like, "Put your hands up!" And this kid put his hands up, and just shoots, and it hits the guy.
Oh yeah,
and you're just like, "Come on,
exactly
bro."
what you're talking about.
My favorite Nerf gun of all time was the Ricochet. Though, it was that one that you had that broke. It was almost like a split barrel, but it had them four barrel. Had four barrels.
It was like a 4-barrel shotgun sort of deal, kind of like.
Yeah, instead of having a lever action, it was the entire thing kind of broke in half.
Yeah, it broke kind of like when you would load a double-barreled shotgun.
Yeah,
crank it
exactly.
Down, crank it up, fire. Crank it down, up, fire.
Yeah, and we just had I think that was the most. I think that was the most fun, is all the Nerf guns and everything.
The craziest would be whenever Matt was there, because Matt was like the boss in the video game, because he was so much bigger than us and athletic.
Yeah, and smart. He was just a fucking snake. So he would be, for instance, we'd be running around their they had this barn. They still have it there, but this barn was just something out of a horror movie. You would go in there and there was just random shit, and you're like, fuck.
Climb up on lofts and stuff like
yeah,
that.
But we didn't start doing that until Matt started doing that, and we didn't know why we were getting killed. We're playing laser tag and you're getting fucking hit, and I'm just like, dude, where are you at? I remember Matt came out from under the stairs one time. He went to the basement of the barn, lifted up a board, and was just shooting people through this board and then putting the bar.
Yeah, he found all these
down.
secret trap doors that I guess were for dropping hay into the horse stalls. We didn't even know about. Just popping out.
What a good time. And then you guys had a go-kart. So that was my favorite thing of all time, was the go-kart.
And you know what? You learned some of Andy Merranko's wrath.
Yeah, so back to the 24 year beat cop who was shot in the head with a 38. I'd say there was nothing else that he takes more pride in than his pine trees that circle his land,
which are, for the record, now 20 feet tall.
Yeah, massive.
At this time, they're 3 feet tall.
These were saplings as soon as he planted them.
Yeah, which talk about chores that take your whole lifetime. We would have to pick weeds for all of them.
How many trees do you think were ever?
Hundreds? There's hundreds of them.
Yeah,
it would be days. It was ridiculous. And I'd just be thinking to myself, like, these weeds are not going to kill this thing. It's going to be just fine.
Literally trees, like pine trees surrounding the entire, how many acres that you guys are actually inhabiting?
He designed it for solitude one day, which that is today. Now it's like a wall.
Yeah, they're all built up. But once these
point,
things just happen, like he fucking planted all of them. But there was Jason lived on the property, so like right next to John's house, there was another house where like Uncle Andy's helper was there. Dude that always worked with him all the time. He had a dog, and this dog would fucking chase after us whenever we'd be riding in these go-karts.
You talking about Emma?
Molly.
Okay.
Molly the dog. It was before he had Emma the Great Dane.
Emma was the terror.
Yeah, Emma, that dog was just it was just like a bitch, and like you couldn't even like go near it. Yeah. It wasn't a cool dog. Any dog
it was
that's
just like this huge Great Dane sort of thing that would just beat the hell out of you.
Yeah.
And I was like, 40 pounds until I was like 15.
Yeah, this thing would just run at you and just take you out. But we were driving in this go-kart, and I always loved driving. I even love driving golf carts still. I have to drive. But I'm driving in this go-kart and everything like that, and I didn't want to hit the dog. The dog kept running in front of me, so I turned to the left and I ran over a pine tree, and it was the most scared I've ever been. I think I cried even.
He was in a rage.
It
was ridiculous.
I'm pretty sure I cried because like I just remember him saying, "That's it, no more go-kart for you ever." And I just remember breaking down, and I was like, "No!" But now the tree is there, and it's a funny story to touch back on. But I mean, if you think about it, like imagine how fucked up we would be if we didn't have fathers like we did.
Oh yeah,
that were card asses.
Yeah, they definitely instilled fear, but it was like the right amount.
It was definitely the right amount
that like millennials today would not be able to deal with.
Not one bit.
I guess technically, for the record, if you're going to use like the census definition, we are millennials.
Yeah.
Though my definition, so for me, it's not about what year you were born. It's about what your childhood was like.
Yeah.
And I think
I agree with that.
My definition, like for differentiating between, is were your childhood pictures
digital or on film?
Physical like photos.
Yeah.
If they were physical photos, you're normal.
Yeah.
If they were digital, you're probably a monster. You're probably just this.
That's crazy.
Self-absorbed.
We were the last group of kids that like didn't have cell phones coming up.
Yeah.
Like we didn't get cell phones. I didn't get a cell phone until I was 18, I think. 17.
For me, where I grew up, cell phones didn't even work. So
not at all.
I would like. I want to say whenever I was like a junior in high school, my mom would let me take hers when I would
same with
go
me.
to the mall or something like that.
Same with me. My mom would let me just take her little flip phone.
Yeah, they don't know what it's like having to text, pressing the each button like 3 times to get the letter you want.
Ridiculous. Now it's just there's a bar that just thinks of the things that you want to say, or you can just press a button and talk into it.
Every time I'm in my car and I I got my phone rigged in with the speakers, and I just like hit Siri and I'm like, Siri, play Madness by Muse.
Yeah.
It plays in my head. Every time I think to myself, I would have shit myself if I knew that this was going to be what it was like.
Yeah, because back in the day, me and you and Pete were like trying. I remember the whole summer that we like first broke into like trying to make mix CDs and like trying to
CDs. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, trying to download music at your house with no service. So it was like the epitome of like going on LimeWire or whichever one you used, and like we would download a song, we'll have to wait 3 days to even listen to it.
Literally days.
Yeah.
And then you listen to it and it's like, it's fucked up.
Terrible.
It's like some terrible version.
You would listen to it, and then we got smart and we would preview it whenever it was like 10% done.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't good, like I remember one time we waited like 3 days for, I think it was a Sum 41 CD.
Probably Sum 41, yeah.
And we listened to it and it was just garbage. It sounded like someone recorded it off of a fucking radio through a can. And we were just like, well, got to start over again.
Yep.
But
it's crazy to think about a time before YouTube. Like,
yeah,
I can remember sitting down, like Rob Orange was the one who really introduced me to like what would today be viral videos.
Yeah.
Like
on E-Bomb's World.
Old woman gets hit by car or something.
Or albino
like
black sheep.
Yeah, like and you'd sit there and you would just download it on LimeWire.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So this is like, I'm talking even before
those websites.
Before all that crap.
Okay, yeah.
And you just have this library of like ridiculous videos.
Yeah. It was always weird because like you guys lived like so Yin's had that long ass driveway, but a majority of it was just gravel. But then right near your house, you had them four big, like them big ass pads.
Yeah.
So it was like a pretty good area, but we would skateboard there. I remember whenever you guys didn't even play hockey, and it was just like our summers consisted of skateboarding in your driveway and trying
building those ramps and
yep,
rails
and
all
trying to
that.
stall on like your dad, like the railroad ties that were like right
Yes.
there.
Yeah, that was the greatest.
Yeah, like those were the best times ever. Everyone
I was thinking
wearing,
to myself if I could still do that if I tried it right now.
I
It's
bet
been-
you could.
I actually, whenever I was in grad school, skateboarding was actually my primary means of transportation.
Yeah.
Which in Oakland, it's perfect
Oh yeah.
because for the I mean, unless you're up on the slopes like I am now, but at the time, it's all flat. It's all pretty much straight, Fifth and Forbes. Take it into class, put it under your desk. You don't even have to like chain it up or something like that.
Yeah.
And like I'd be coming in with my blind Reaper
Yep.
hangman.
I do remember
and
that.
like all the Chinese students in my class thought I was just like the scariest, like biggest hard ass.
That's why
the
I do
skeleton.
remember you always had the blind boards, and like I remember we always, all three of us always wore like TNTs.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Oh,
Vans
dude.
TNTs.
Those were the days.
Still the best. Still the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Your house was I mean, both of our houses were just good for different reasons. You know, it was always just like such a big deal to go up there and you know, kind of experience a little bit of a change.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, fast forward a little bit, where I mean, we grew up like when I remember after high school, like we both went off to college, and we both like, you know, we were consistently pretty much hanging out until like I'd say 10th grade, and then once we were able to drive and shit, we kind of just like fell off a little bit because like you would be like, if we're both able to drive, like we're not gonna like drive up an hour away. We're just gonna drive to our friend's house around there, and then like college. I remember after college, it's like after college, we ended up starting to like talk more again because we ended up seeing each other a lot more. But like that whole like 4 years,
Yeah, there was like a window. I can't even remember like what brought us back together.
I don't know either.
It's kind of random, I guess.
Yeah, it's just random. I think it was just like after we all got done with school, and we're not just like, because if you're at college, like you were at St. Vincent's, you were away the whole time. Like you stayed away there. I didn't. And like there was no reason for me to like there was no reason for us to come across each other again until like it was like, you know, family type shit. But man, those were the days.
Yeah, college is weird because it's like your world becomes bigger because, you know, all new people, all new stuff, freedom. But then at the same time, it's like it becomes smaller because for the most part, you're like hanging out on your campus and in and around there. It's like this little world that has everything you need.
Yeah, and you're trying to like mingle with people, with new people, and like you're trying to like make new friends and shit like that, which is, I mean, it's hard for some people, but I don't know. So you went to St. Vincent's. What would you go to school for?
Well, I actually, so going in, I wanted to major in math. And so I applied to Pitt, Penn State, and St. Vincent. Pretty much just wanted to stay like Pittsburgh area for the most part. Penn State, obviously far away. But anyhow, and St. Vincent had these deals where it was like, there were all these different tests you could take.
Yeah.
And if you, like whenever you applied, and if you got the highest score, you won the scholarship for that school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so I remember going in, my mom was like, oh, you should go take the math test. And I'm like, I guarantee there's some brainiac who's just going to like crush this. And what was interesting though was that the business school had an essay contest. And I'm like, I bet I can, you know, I was a pretty good writer, pretty good bullshitter.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for that. So I did the essay, ended up winning the essay. And then they called me and they said, we got bad news. The scholarship's only available for people in the business school.
Really?
And your application says math. And I'm like, well, like, what do I do? And so they had me talk to the dean, and the dean says, hey, you can double major in economics and math. Economics is in the business school, so you'll be covered. And there's a lot of overlap, so it's like not too overwhelming. And so I ended up doing that. Interestingly enough, so like I got the business school scholarship. Amanda got like the science school scholarship.
Really?
At St. Vincent's. Yeah, that was kind of
Fucking
interesting. That's my
nerds.
wife for everybody out there.
Yeah. So we're not-
Yeah, and so then interestingly enough, got into statistics on the economic side, something called econometrics.
Yeah.
Then decided to get the master's degree in stats and now do data science. So
What did so you were always into math and shit like that?
it wasn't so much that it was like I was into math. It was like I knew I was good at it. I knew it was in demand. And honestly, like it's kind of funny, but I just thought that Keith and Matt were like the smartest, most capable human beings in the world. And I just like they went on to be engineers, and so I was like, yeah, that's probably what I should do.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, like it's funny when I think about what I used to think about Keith and Matt.
So Matt, obviously my brother,
Yeah,
is
Keith,
an electrical
yeah,
engineer.
sorry.
Keith is
My older brother, 19 years older. So
Yeah.
kind of like Chad, where it's you have the older brother who's sufficiently old enough that it's like you see all the things that they do, and so then you want to do it.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that kind
yeah.
of deal. Yeah, I used to think that they were like the smartest people.
Yeah,
in the
they're
world.
both brains. Like I don't remember all the stories about like the fucked ups. I mean, I remember the stories, but I don't remember the fucked up shit that Keith did, like how he like wired a doorknob or something like that.
Yeah, so my good friends know that I like to prank people a lot. I like to like lie to trick people. Like I just like enjoy
Yeah.
just, pulling shit on people. Mischief, yes.
Yeah.
And growing up in the middle of nowhere, that didn't help.
Yeah.
Like I remember one time after Matt revealed those trap doors in the barn,
Yeah.
I flipped one open and covered it with hay, and I tricked Pete into falling in it. He actually almost got really badly hurt. I did terrible things, but I learned it all from my older brother Keith, and he was like too smart for his own good. Whenever I was very young in Maryland, he lived with us in the summertime. He was like he was in college at the time.
Yeah.
And he did stuff like wired our bedroom door with a battery so that we couldn't get out. So whenever he would have to watch us, he didn't want to have to actively watch us. So he found ways to contain us.
Jeez.
And so, yeah, wired the door. One time he tied all of our shoes together in knots that were so tight we couldn't get them untied, so we couldn't go outside because he didn't want to go out and watch us.
Wow.
One time, it must have been like the first Photoshop ever, because this would have been like 1991. But he showed me a picture of a condor, like the bird, like grabbing somebody and like like a kid and carrying him away. And he's like, yeah, these condors are out there now. Like they eat kids. You don't want to go outside. And I was terrified.
Yeah.
But yeah, just
That's where that all stems from for sure, because they always would like screw with us, and like as we would get older, we would be like, all right, now we're gonna get them back. And then it just starts a prank war of everything.
oh yeah.
So after all this shit, you're in school, during school, like what kind of shit do you do for fun? You started playing guitar.
Yeah, guitar was a big thing. Like,
That's what's the most surprising of you of anything, because like I remember Pete starting to play guitar whenever we were younger at your house. You had that dude would come over and like teach him lessons at Creeper, and
it was kind of weird.
he was a super weird dude. But Pete would always play guitar, and like me and you would be dicking around, like downloading shit or playing like the Incredible Machine or something.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's Wolfenstein. I still remember the cheat code, MIL. But Pete would play guitar, and then like out of nowhere, I remember like after our like time where you were in school and we didn't like there was a period of time where we didn't like hang out a bunch. You just started being able to like play the guitar, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was kind of weird because early on, my mom forced my brother and I both to play piano,
Yeah, I remember that.
and I didn't really like it. And it's sad because I can still screw around on a piano a little bit, but
Yeah.
like I wish I was as good at piano as I am at guitar.
Absolutely.
And the problem was that like when you take lessons as a kid, you're learning like the most boring stuff ever.
Yeah, plus you're obligated to. You're forced
Yeah,
to
that's
take
true.
lessons.
Yeah,
And you never want to do things that you're told to
very
do.
True. Guitar was a perfect example. So eventually Pete didn't want to play piano anymore, so he played guitar instead. And me, I was like, I already have to practice enough for piano. Like I'm not learning something new.
Yeah.
Eventually, we both quit, and I started listening to music. Listening to Sum 41,
AC/DC.
AC/DC. And I decided, like, you know what, I kind of want to play guitar. So I asked my mom as a kid, like, can I take guitar lessons? She's like, no, you two like quit. You're never getting lessons ever again. I was like, damn. So then senior year of high school, early on, I decide, because one of my good friends at the time, Brian Cook, I believe you probably
Yeah.
met him at some point, absolute maniac. I hope he's still alive. he played guitar, and like I wanted to play guitar, so I tried to learn. And like after a week, I was like, this sucks. Like this is so hard because guitar has the hardest learning curve because you're doing two very different things, very unnatural things at the same time.
Moving your hand a certain way and pressing the strings
And you can't.
down.
The big thing is you can't look at both things at the same time. Like
Yeah.
with piano, it's like kind of all in front of you. Guitar, it's really tough. So I
Especially being a little bit older. Like it's always easier whenever you're a younger kid.
So I ended up quitting. And then after my senior year of high school, I ended up breaking up with my girlfriend of many years. And so like I didn't have like, that was such a regular use of my time was like, going and hanging out.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't there anymore. And then this was whenever I was working like 50-hour weeks for my dad and like just so burned out. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to leave the house.
Because that was still while you were in school. But like if you were on the weekends, you were, wait.
Well, no, so this is summer after senior year.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So this
okay,
is
yeah.
whenever it's like fully enlisted in Merranko contract. Okay. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna screw around with this guitar until I learn.
Yeah.
And then honestly, like once you get past the first couple months, once you get the both hands going, like you are even mildly proficient at it, it's so easy after that.
It's just like that?
What's that?
Golf.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, dude.
Maybe one day.
I'm telling you, my entire like schooling of high school, I would go with my friends and I would hate it so much that I would just not have fun and I would just drive the carts. I couldn't hit a ball accurate enough to even be able to compete with anyone.
So that's why I want to like try that Top Golf. Is that Top Golf?
Yeah,
right?
Top Golf. That'll definitely like help, but I mean,
I feel like if you can't drive in a straight line, you're going to be miserable, or at least in something.
it's a whole
the
different
fairway.
topic, but you need to just try because like, I mean, after you spend, the first 4 times going out where you could like somewhat hit a ball where you're not completely fucking it up, it's addicting, just like anything else.
Sure it is.
Once you get over that line, it's like climbing up to the top of a hill. Once you get to the top of the hill,
what time do you golf?
I mean, I'll golf whenever you want to. I like to golf early, and John don't like to get up. He's fucking shooting 5-hour energies in his eyes and shit.
I like to get up when the sun is actually up. So
Yeah, you like that monster. How's that monster rehab? Not doing nothing for you, probably. You're probably just so addicted to all that and ain't even doing nothing for you. I have one in the fridge. I usually drink what the people will get. I wasn't drinking it at 7 p.m. tonight. Okay, so you broke up with that girl, and then you started playing guitar. You definitely got good at it.
yeah, and the crazy thing about that, like before that, I didn't really care that much about music.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like a small thing, and like
That's
my taste was most like I liked some good bands, but when I think back to some of the stuff, like this is going to sound weird to people who probably see me as somebody who likes like classic rock and stuff like that. Like I just don't even like AC/DC at all. I think they're like the simplest band.
You used to be obsessed with them.
The thing is, when you learn how to play guitar, within the first year, you can play everything they've ever done.
Yeah, that's what everyone says.
But yeah, it like you really appreciate music more. You notice the different, like it just like opened up a whole big part of my life.
But it's about anything. Like if there's any sort of thing like I'm gonna look at podcasts differently than you are. Just like you're gonna look at music differently than I am. I explain it as like a stew. I taste like if we're both listening to a song, I taste like the stew overall. But you could taste all the different ingredients of it. What's hard, what's not hard, what's a bend, what's not, whatever the fucking terminology is. But like to me, it's just the whole piece together. Yeah, I hear you. But that was what was always like kind of surprising to me, especially now because you're still into it just as much. Like I mean, you're definitely way better. But that's always something that like I never ever thought of you doing whenever you were younger. But now it's just you're pretty.
One of my biggest regrets is not playing in a band. Like,
yeah.
Whenever I was in college, I could have gotten in a band or something like that. The closest I ever got, like I would jam with some people.
Yeah.
Actually, I did play on stage one time in my life. It was like a, what the hell do they call that?
A talent show?
Open mic.
Okay.
At St. Vincent, and one of the guys I lived with, he was actually huge in teaching me how to play guitar. Because like when I started playing, the first thing I think I ever learned was like, I think the More Than a Feeling solo. Like I just immediately was learning solos. Like I just wanted to shred. And that's like what I want to do all the time now. But like from the beginning, I just wanted to shred.
Yeah.
Like I didn't learn how to play a chord. And like I start college after that summer, and like I see a dude has an amp. I'm like, oh, nice, you play guitar? And he's like, oh yeah, you too, whatever. And we're playing, and he was like, you know any like good chord progressions? I was like, I don't know any chords. And he's like, how do you not know any chords? And you can like play some things. I was like, I don't know, I just never learned them.
What were you learning? Tab, yeah.
Oh,
okay.
And so he took a piece of paper and just like drew chords and was like, practice these and get back to me.
Really?
And it made me a much better lead guitarist because you learn like tempo, you know? Like I never really had very good tempo until I learned how to play chords.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of like get the rhythm. And so this dude and I used to jam all the time, and we played, so like at this point in time, I was real into Guns N' Roses. And so I wanted to play something Guns N' Roses, but nobody can sing Axl Rose. But dude could get by singing Knocking on Heaven's Door. And so we did Knocking on Heaven's Door. I nailed both the solos. It was awesome. Then dude ends up failing out, overdoses.
Jesus.
So that was the end. No band possibilities.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna build me up to something good, and then you're just like,
super,
no, dude.
Super depressing ending. And then like from that point, like my buddy Matt Myers plays a little bit of bass, not enough to.
Does he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Not enough to like play in a band.
Yeah.
But, like this dude could like sing awesome and play guitar. It was nice. But
He's dead.
yeah, he's dead.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
Jesus. So in school, I mean, you're playing guitar and shit like that, and then fast forward a little bit, and you meet a woman.
It's true. I do meet a woman.
Now-
Actually, one of the first, I believe she saw me playing guitar very early on, and I think that was what really cemented her admiration for me.
She told me the first party that Ian's went to, you got a little bit shitty drunk, and so you how did you two even meet?
Jack.
How did you two meet?
Okay, well, Emily Hillen, a friend of mine from high school, I believe you know her.
Yes.
We both went to St. Vincent, and she had a friend all throughout St. Vincent, but she was a year below me, and so like we never like lived anywhere near each other. So like, if we would hang out, she would we were the older cool kids, of course, and so she would just come to like our dorm and hang out, and so like we didn't really see her friends. But she always had this one really close friend, Amanda Jabber. And she always said like, oh, you two, from the beginning, she always said you two would be the perfect couple and you would make the most beautiful babies in the world. For anybody who's wondering, she is Arab. And so she just thought the idea of like, a mixed baby would just be beautiful. Okay.
Okay.
But anyway, and so like for years, like I never met her. And then I don't even remember how it. So I guess what really began was, so I was on, and this is going to be full circle with my not wanting to get up in the morning. I was on student government.
Okay.
Because throughout my whole life I just have to do.
You're just a
activities
fucking
all the
nerd.
time. And we had to do some event. It's Saturday, like the crack of dawn. And I never, ever went to breakfast on the weekends. I never went to breakfast ever. I probably went to breakfast like 5 times in all of college.
Jeez.
Okay. But definitely not on the weekends. And so like Nick and Matt and all them, they'd always be going. But so like I'm done with this event. I'm like, oh my God, it's like breakfast time. I guess I should just go to breakfast. And go to breakfast and sit down at Emily's table. There's Amanda. And so, we start talking, and I was just like super miserable, and definitely not like
First time you met your now wife.
Like, I can't believe she like was interested in me at all. Just totally miserable. And then like I feel like the next time Emily came around, like Amanda was there, and then she was there like consistently.
Yeah.
We started to hit it off. One time she stole some food out of my dorm and left me like a note.
Really?
So
thief.
Yeah.
Cut someone's hand off for that.
Yeah, but then, very early on, she was just like, yo, just so you know, like my family, I was raised Muslim. They only want me marrying a Muslim. So like, if anything happens with us, it can't go anywhere. And so I'm like, man.
So what year did this all start that you met her?
So this was the very end of my junior year of college. And what's crazy about it is, so I dated a girl for a little over a year before that. And she was just a horror, just the worst human being I've ever known. But anyway.
Not WHORE, HORROR.
Yes. Yes. Well, maybe both. But anyway, so I broke up with her the Christmas, like the December before that.
Okay.
So December of my junior year, like a week before birthday. In my defense, it was like going downhill for months, and I was just like, I'm not like,
I ain't wasting no money on you.
You know, with these like moments like that, it's like the spike, like, oh, I got you a present, like we're solidifying the relationship.
Yep.
And I was just trying to get out.
Checkpoints.
Anyway, yeah, so ended that. Okay. And actually, the first time that Amanda ever heard about me from anybody other than Emily was actually, she went on some service trip in New York. And my ex-girlfriend at the last second decides to go on this so she can probably meet guys or something. And she's roommates with Amanda.
Oh my God.
And she's literally crying about how this asshole John Merranko just broke up with her and he's such a piece of shit. And you know, Amanda's like reassuring her, like, oh, you know, it's okay. Yeah, you're better than him, blah, blah. And then
wow,
sure
what
enough,
a small world.
she ends up with me. And one of the first like dates we went on, we go to this like coffee shop, which obviously I wasn't touching any coffee, and my ex-girlfriend was there.
Oh my God.
And it was the most, she was crazy. Like Nick used to have nightmares about like, she would like listen outside our door after she left, after we'd fight.
To see if you were talking shit.
And then
Oh my
just like open up
God.
the door and be like, I heard all of that. And then turn around and leave. And Nick would just do this. Just scared, just like this slow turn, mouth agape, eyes wide open.
Fuck
and he had
that.
recurring nightmares about her killing him. Like she's that crazy. Okay.
Man, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So then she's there and she's just like talking to me like nothing happened and like nothing, there's no awkwardness about like me being with this girl who she was talking to after we broke up. And it was horrifying. But yeah, so then from there, we would, so that summer she was living at her parents' house, which means like
You obviously can't go.
incognito. They can't know I exist.
So, like, for people that don't know, it's like, you know, it's in the Muslim religion. You're meant to marry someone from the same, right? Is that right?
Yeah, and I mean honestly, it's even beyond that because it's like not only just like they want it to be an Arab. They don't
Yeah.
even want it to be just like some random white looking or black Muslim. Like they want it to be like an Arab.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just like, you know, Asian cultures, you know, they come to America, their parents want them to, marry somebody in the same country. It's, you know, part of it, I guess, is like solidarity, you know, it's like you're kind of all by yourself in this country and you want to.
That makes sense for
together,
sure.
I guess. But yeah, definitely no interest in me at all. And so we would go on these secret dates. Like she'd have to lie about where she was, say she was working or something like that.
Yeah.
And then my senior year began, and Amanda, who was actually a year younger than me, she actually graduated in 3 years because she's a genius. And
Did she?
yeah, and so
Jeez, I didn't know that.
and so like we dated that whole year, and like we both just by chance were planning on going to Pitt for grad school, her for pharmacy, me for statistics.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of kept riding it.
Kind of kept going.
And like very selfishly in my head, the whole time I was thinking like, she's going to fall for me. And like, you know, she's going to set all this shit aside. Part of it was probably me like just kind of rationalize and not accept what the real situation was.
Yeah, because like the real situation is like you guys are together for a couple years and her family doesn't know about you.
And I mean, it's like I would hear stories about her mom screaming at her because like she used to work as a waitress for many years.
Yeah.
If she came back from work like a half hour after she was supposed to, because her mom was like, "What are you doing? Are you out there meeting guys? Are you going to shame your family?"
And
like,
I think it's super interesting because like, I mean, obviously our culture is not like that. So, I mean, I just find it interesting. Like whenever I talk to the funeral director, she was talking about how different religions like do different things whenever people die. But like, I mean, I'm not saying that has anything to do with death, but like just different religions and cultures do different things and have their own ways to do things. And I just remember like, I remember a point in time where like, probably you guys were like a couple years into dating. I met her a bunch of times and everything like that. And you like kind of told me what this whole thing that was going on. You were like, yeah, like we've been dating, but like her parents don't know a thing about me. Your parents obviously knew about her, but like
that was the weird dichotomy. It was like she met
everyone,
extended family members.
So like
her parents don't even know I exist.
At my house, at my parents' house on Christmas Eve every year is like the biggest gathering. It's almost like Home Alone whenever like all the family's there. So we used to roll like 45 deep in my old house, but now everyone just is all petty, doesn't speak to each other and does whatever. But, she would come to our house. Everyone loved her. Like everyone's just like, oh, holy shit. She's just like part of it now. She's part of the whole fucked up system. You're just involved with us. And then, it was just so weird to me to think that like that Amanda was like so close with us. Like my mother immediately was just in love with her, and you telling me like, yeah, her parents don't know nothing about me. Like really thinking like that they're going to like disown her or, just completely cut her off. And you were talking to me about like, there's history where there's like honor killings and shit like that.
Yeah, it's just like, I would literally have nightmares about it. I have nightmares that like there'd be a knock on my door and it was like Amanda's dad.
Yeah.
And like, what am I going to do?
And
yeah. And like, yeah, I was always like, I would read all these articles about stories and like, it would freak you right out.
I bet. I mean, like anything like that is fucked up. Like to hear that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, so, I'm telling the story of the origin, fast forward 7 years, still don't even know I exist. Like that's...
So it was 7 years. Like you guys were together for over 7 years and they didn't know anything about you.
Yep. And then eventually it just kind of got to the point where it was like, this is happening.
Hey, I'm dating someone.
And it was initially bad. I mean, it wasn't anywhere near...
How long ago was this? This was very relatively recent. This year?
It was last summer.
So last summer,
so about a year.
I remember the day that you told me that happened. I randomly called you because we were playing like Dungeons and Dragons or something, and you were like, Amanda just told her parents about me, and I was like, what the fuck? What? Like, what happened? You got guns ready or whatever? Like,
it was like,
because obviously, like, if you hear something and you're just like if he is reading all this shit and explaining it to me, he's obviously like telling me all the worst facts about it all. Like this is what could happen. Like I'm fully prepared to defend her in any way. And you're just like, what the fuck is going to happen? Like, you don't know if these people are going to roll up on you with guns and sitars or whatever.
The worst part about it was I really hated her parents without ever even knowing them.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, I hated this idea that somebody hates me and they don't even know who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point. That's a good point that you brought up. Like, I didn't even think about that. Like, they automatically hate you. So, like, why would you show any sort of, like, why would you want any sort of, like, relationship with them?
Yeah, I mean, it's messed up when it's like, you hate the person you love. You hate her parents. You never even met them.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, so she broke the news. It was bad. Her mom's crying, saying, like, well, you're going to have to choose between him and your family. And like initially it seemed like it wasn't going to end well. And then eventually it was like a month later, things started, she like started talking to them more and they're like, all right, well, let's meet this guy. And I go over to their place.
What was the first experience of this?
Just went to their house. I'm just waiting outside the door. Like, I don't even know like what to expect. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. And like, the thing is, it's like the elephant in the room. It's like, this isn't just meeting somebody. I'm meeting somebody who I know
disapproves of you.
Yeah, disapproves 100%. Of me, and they know that they disapprove of me. So it's just like this horrible like dynamic.
You're set up for failure, basically.
Her mom was the more sort of strict of the two.
Yeah.
Her dad lived in America for longer, like really like absorbed into
the culture
and like in Aliquippa, he's like a legend. Like he literally knows probably 80% of the people in Aliquippa. Whenever we walk through like the mall or something like that, every other person is stopping and chatting.
Really?
Like somebody tried to get him to run for mayor before. Like he knows everyone and he is like the most charismatic funniest old guy you've ever seen. Like he knows all these weird sayings.
So like, what was his experience towards you? Like you came in and you met these two and they were just like,
I mean, he was like being mugging and like
being cold.
Yeah. It was cold to start. And like, he wanted to know about me and like what my plans were with like my life moving forward.
Yeah.
And,
like, did he ask about like your upbringing, like where you came from and stuff like that?
No, it was really more about like now and the future.
Yeah.
It wasn't until like we started getting chummier that he started wanting to know like, you know, the origin story and everything. But yeah, and one of the times when like the kind of the moment where like he kind of really like broke the ice, not like even broke the ice. It was just kind of like
you knew it was going to be all right.
Yeah. Was maybe it was even, I think it was maybe the second time I was even there.
Yeah.
I think. And like I went out and had a talk with her dad, like, you know, man to man on the
I remember getting a Snapchat
porch.
of that.
Yeah. And I had, you know, my like little speech prepared to like say like, you know, I want to marry your daughter. And then of course, as soon as it began, I just like, script was like out the window. And I was just like, listen, I know that I'm not like the dream husband you've always had in mind for Amanda. And he's like, no. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. He was like, you know, you seem like a good man. You're smart. You know, you're going to take care of my daughter. That's all that matters to me. Now start over. I just kind of like started laughing and I'm like, all right. And then just like, yeah, you know, I love your daughter more than anybody in the world. I, you know, want nothing
even more than me. No, just kidding.
Want nothing more than to spend the rest of my life with her. And, you know, I wanted to ask for, you know, permission to marry her.
On the second time you met her.
Yeah.
Second time ever.
I mean,
I guess that they knew.
Let's keep in mind, these are two people who met once and then got married.
That's a good point. That's a good
Arranged
point. There's
marriage.
arranged marriages. So that's a really good point.
Not that crazy.
That's a good point.
Okay.
Plus, so whenever Amanda told her parents about you, did they say like, we've been together for 7 years?
No, it was like, so we admitted that we knew each other in college and, you know, we really liked each other.
Yeah.
And that we like stayed in touch as friends throughout our, you know, time at Pitt.
Yeah.
And, you know, like we obviously like wanted to be together, but we knew that wasn't really going to go anywhere. And then eventually it just kind of reached a point where we didn't care and we just wanted it to go somewhere.
So like, what's your mindset being like on your side of this? So like, obviously she knows, like she's familiar with all this and like her culture and everything like that. For you to be someone that's like, you know, I've been with you for 5 years, like you're putting in time with someone. I remember me and you having this conversation, like you saying like, I just don't know what to do. Like, I don't want this to end ever, but I just don't think that this is going to be something that could happen. Like, what's your mindset of that all? Like, is there ever a time, like there's a time where you accept that, like, you know what, she's like, this is going to happen. And, if her parents don't like this, then like they're going to disown her. Like, I mean, let me just quit like beating around the bush. Did you ever just want to just like give up on that and be like, you know what, I don't want to deal with all this?
There was really only one time. There was a few times when Amanda kind of would have talks with me like, you know, this, I don't want to do this to you. Yeah. Like, you know, she would always say like, you're wasting your time with me. Yeah. And I would always, you know, say, I'm not wasting time. Like, you know, I don't care. This is fine. Yeah. There was only really one time whenever I had a talk with her and was like, you know, I'm kind of worried about what this is going to do to you. It was kind of like when I was at the apex of my fear of like what her family would do. Yeah. I probably heard some story about her mom freaking out about the smallest shit. Like when you find out her mom is like literally threatening to kill herself whenever minor infractions would happen. Yeah. It's like what am I going to do? I'm just going to break the family in half. Yeah. That's, that's a good point too. Like you don't want to be responsible for ripping apart a family. Yeah. I mean, like on her side, it was like, she thought she was wasting my time. On my side, it's just like, what am I doing to your life? Yeah. But I mean, it's funny. My whole life, I've always been the guy, I always plan miles in advance.
Yeah.
Like everyone always made fun of, like when I went to school, like all my friends all changed their majors 10 times. And I went in, math and econ, came out, math and econ. You know, like
You're pretty by the book, I would say.
Yeah,
Save money, just you have a pretty, I would say you're a man of habit. Like you do what you need to do, you save money, you have your own quirks, but I mean, you're pretty grounded. I'd say you're a very, very like regimented person.
Yeah. And like I always was planning for the future.
Yeah.
When I started dating her, it was just like just living in the now.
Now, what do you think that now from my perspective of her, ever since I knew her, I always felt that like, it was kind of like, fuck it. I'm going to, for her, I think her mindset was just like, like I love this dude. So like whatever happens, like I'm going to just deal with it. And, that was always like kind of, to me, that was always like kind of like, I don't even know what the right word is. It was always just like I get chills whenever I think about that because like, I remember I say it was maybe 4 years into it, 5 years into it, like me and you started talking about like those situations. Like, yeah, her parents don't know. Like, I eventually want to marry her, but I just don't know if it's possible. And like me talking to her about that. And I just remember her always saying like, I love him. Like, I'm just gonna, whatever happens is gonna happen. And like, that's always been like super, super like, I don't know the right word I'm looking for, but that's just like emotional, not really emotional, but like, it's just like, that was always like a big deal to me for her to like say that and like to hear her, like to see her actions, because like I'm very super critical of people. We all know that. Like if I don't like you, I don't like you. And it's very hard for me to like stray from that. But she's always been like pretty much ride or die for you. And it's pretty interesting. And it's interesting to like learn about her different like culture through all this. Like I knew nothing about this. Obviously, if you're going through it, I learn about it a little bit more. And, it was just very, very like, it was new to me. It was new to me learn all that. And it was, I mean, it's the right word. The wrong word is exciting, but it was exciting I was anxious. I was anxious to see how this was all going to play out. And
it was definitely not your average relationship.
Not one bit.
But it's crazy how human beings can just get used to something. Because sometimes people would like point out what was happening and be like, that's insane. I'd be like, yeah, I guess it is. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even really think about it anymore.
Yeah, because
like and it wasn't like one day we were like, you know what, we're going to do this. We're like riding this out.
Yeah.
It was just like, they say like, you boil a frog in a pot of water. You put it in the cold water, just turn on the heat. It doesn't even notice it's getting boiled.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a saying. But anyway, it was like that. It was like one day, it wasn't like there was a moment where we reached that crossroads and we went for it. It was just like
set there.
One day it's just like, yeah, we're doing this, I guess. Like, we're each other's lives now. So.
It's awesome because like, growing up, I mean, you're a year older than me. So, I figure like we were pretty comparable coming up. Like I would always like me, you and Pete were definitely the closest in age out of any cousins or anything. So, anytime I'm growing up, I would always notice what you guys were doing and like what kind of things would happen. And it's cool to see like all of us growing up together, all of us like, finding girls, getting married, and just like living as adults. And like now in the past year, I mean, you guys got married, your brother got married, my brother got married, I got married. And like, that's crazy to me. Like, it's crazy to start thinking about all this shit. And now you're about to be a fucking dad.
Yes, I am.
So in a year, her parents went from not knowing you, hating you, but not knowing you. Or actually they went from not knowing you, hating your guts, to accepting you, to now loving you. Like at the wedding, I met her dad. Her dad was just like you said, very charismatic. Her mom is just like, I mean, like they were just normal people.
I mean, the thing is, it's like one thing you really learn with them. It's not, because like I figured it out. It's not, and Amanda would always say this, but it just seemed nuts to me. But it's not that they don't want Amanda to be with who she wants to be with.
They're protective.
It's all, what it's all about is the way the rest of your family sees you. That is 100% what it is.
Really?
Yes. It's like they're going to be talking shit on us. We can't be doing this. You're shaming us,
And that's big for,
And like you hear like the stories
Arab
about
culture.
their other relatives. It's like, oh yeah, cousin whatever did this.
And like
we'll never forget about it.
Yeah. So
Like
that's,
they care so much about what everyone thinks. And it's like, just just relax.
Yeah, and it's just like us, complete opposite. We're just like, don't give a fuck what you guys think about anything. But that's, I don't know, that's pretty interesting. So fast forward a little bit to being, out on the outskirts, being an infidel, to now, you're about to be a dad. And I think that was another thing that, like, it kind of brings us full circle, because we talked about like growing up together and like how awesome it was, like, kind of making our own, like making our own entertainment and like kind of turning out. It's cool to like remember all these times from us talking and like seeing how we came out. Like, I'm very happy with how I became. Like, I'm happy with how all of us became. We're not fucking, we're not addicted to drugs. We're not fucking, we all have jobs. We're all married. You're about to have a kid. And it's pretty insane. Like, what's your feelings about like being a dad?
It's crazy. I mean, it's like during those 7 years, whenever we were, kind of like, in the shadows.
Yeah.
We couldn't, our life was kind of like on pause, like you couldn't take it the next step.
Yeah.
So it was just, I mean, and like
there was not like Facebook, like not YouTube.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Couldn't be
yeah, like
relationship status on Facebook. Couldn't have any. So it was like
tiptoeing.
Yeah. It just kind of like stayed where it was. And then as soon as, I met her family and,
it was accepted.
Yeah. Once everything got accepted, it was like, okay, let's fast track.
The chips fell.
And like, proposed, lickety split.
Yeah.
And then got married a couple months later. Everyone's like, oh my God, she must be pregnant.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like we've just been waiting forever. We're not waiting anymore.
I know, right? Like that has to be crazy. 7 years and not even be able to like say like, hey mom, like I'm fucking in love. Like I'm having a great time in life. I'm doing good. So like, let me ask, what did her parents think all them years? Like they just thought she wasn't dating no one?
No.
Not talking to any guys or anything?
They figured, that whenever they would go to weddings and stuff, it would be like, oh, this guy over here, we could arrange a marriage with him. And she'd say, no, I'm not interested. And it's funny because her dad told me that he always had suspicions because he said, I would be trying to set up all these these marriages for her.
That's
and
crazy.
She always found a reason not to be interested. He was like, he goes, listen to me, cuz I wasn't born yesterday.
Like the old man wisdom that knows what's going on. So you think her dad? Do you think that her dad would have been more lenient?
Oh yeah,
100%. Like if you would have told him years beforehand, like do you think that that you guys could have like done this years prior?
No, I mean, sadly, part of it has to do with, in terms of like Arab culture.
Yeah.
Amanda, whenever we got married, I was 29, and so she was 28.
Yeah.
That's like ancient.
Oh, really?
Like especially for the woman, you're getting married young.
Because didn't you also say that it's also like looked down upon for any female to like do any schooling after like high school or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it gets, like Arab culture can get very strict in that regard. Now,
yeah.
Like, her dad we always wanted Amanda to do everything.
Yeah.
Like, he called her the ace in the hole. Like he wanted her getting all the education and make as much cheese as she could.
Yeah.
Her mom, was different. Her mom didn't want her leaving the house until she got married, and basically didn't want her going out into the world until she was married.
Yeah.
And part of it is that, in Arab culture, the sad truth is that guys can do more, but like,
yeah, 100%.
Her brother does whatever he wants, like whatever he wants.
But females are like looked at very differently.
Yeah, I mean, it's very sheltered, very sheltered.
And that's crazy. That's
another big thing is that her dad spent a lot more time in America.
Yeah.
And like whenever, like he went back to the Middle East, married her, came back, like she didn't really speak English, and it's like he's at work all day, and so she's just at home.
So he's getting exposed to like the culture while she's just kind of staying with her own. Yeah, that makes sense.
He over the years developed his famous Wendy's crew, who he hangs out with like every day, and learns all these insane old people sayings. But yeah, and her mom though was a lot more, sheltered and had to kind of spend a lot more time to herself, and so things didn't change.
There was no exposure of other things.
Exactly.
And that's super interesting to me because like we were talking about like how before at like funerals and shit, there's different ways to do things. There's different ways with marriage and how you get together and stuff like that. For us, it's just like super bizarre for us to like hear about that, like the way that they do things. But I guess it's super bizarre for them to hear about us and the way that we do things. Like, it's all just like, it's all really weird how people like their lives, like everyone has a different life and it's just like super weird. That's kind of where this podcast, like why I do all this, because like, I try to learn a little bit about it. Super interesting.
I mean, it's definitely culture shock.
When are you supposed to pop out a kid?
We haven't been to the doctor yet. Should be due sometime around like mid-April.
Mid-April.
Of course, right dead center in during Star Wars Celebration 2019. Bought tickets and hotel and all that.
Oh, you already bought tickets for that?
Oh yeah, I mean, they sold out in like instantly. So
How much was it?
I think it was like $250 a pop or something. Bought a ticket for me and Amanda, and then going with my cousin and her husband. I was going. But yeah, so I got to figure out what to do with those now. But obviously, that's not a concern.
Yeah.
But
Hey, you could just have that kid. I'm gonna go to Star Wars World.
but yeah, so that's fast tracked for sure.
Yeah, expedited. Everything's pretty much expedited.
I'll tell you what, like, her mom, I know, is gonna like smother this child. Like, you can just see it coming. And like, for the record, like, I said, early on, I did not like her parents because I never met them.
Yeah.
Now that I know them, they're like great people.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Really, it's just.
I'm sure they
it's
feel
like
the
said,
same about you too. It's like
just a culture difference. And like once the I busted through the armor with my limitless charm.
Yeah.
Now I'm just, like I spend 10 times as much time with her family than I even do with my family.
Yeah.
We won us over like every day.
Really?
Yeah. And I mean, it's a good time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Her dad is one of the just naturally funniest guys I've ever met.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome to hear. I'm excited for you. I'm excited to watch all this progress. I don't plan on having no kids, man. It'll be.
You don't have, see, I feel it's, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I had this talk with my friend Matt Myers. It's like, I just feel like I'm like, I want to. I don't know why I want to. I just feel like I want to. Just like this.
I mean, I did at one point, but like, I wanted kids growing up for sure, but like Antoinette didn't want kids. So, this isn't anything that you had to deal with, but like, it's somewhat of something that Antoinette will always talk to me about, like how, she's like, in the beginning when we were dating, she was like, "Oh, you don't want to be with me. Like, I know you want to have kids and things like that." And I'm just like, like, think about this. Like, I've been with you for 5 years. If I didn't weigh that option to never have a child, I wouldn't be with you. Like, do I look like someone that will waste my own time? Robert California. No, but, like, it's just something different. It's something that I really had to like sit down and think about, because like whenever I was growing up, I was like, oh yeah, I want kids and everything like that. But like her not wanting kids and me dating her, really like made me, look at things from a different perspective, because like there's been times where I was sitting there thinking like, what, do I really want a kid? Can I marry this girl? Do I really want a kid? Like, is that something that I need to have? And being with her, that's just, I don't need to have a kid. And she enlightened me on reasons why we don't need to. Like, I don't need to have a kid. I can go travel around. And, I think it's just more, I'm not saying you're wrong for having a kid. I'm just saying like, it's like, we're going against the grain. We're not like falling into the norm. And I think that that's why people feel that it's so weird. Like my mom will talk to me and she'll be like, oh yeah, like, before I even married Antoinette, she was like, oh, well, if this girl doesn't want to have a kid, like if you can't deal with that, you can't marry her. And, now she understands like I'm not a fucking idiot. I'm a grown ass man and I know what I'm doing. I feel like, but the whole kid thing is, the more and more I get older, I'm just like, I'm all right with like not having a kid and like being able to see the world in a different way. Like I see different people that are adults that don't have children, whether it was they wanted to or not. They just don't have kids, but they're living a great life. Like they're living a wholesome life. They're having fun. Like they're enjoying it. You know, I'm excited to see how it plays out. Like I'm not saying we're never going to, but like right now it ain't in the cards. And I mean, it's cool to see you guys experiencing it. Like I have a couple best friends that like my buddy Damien had a kid. She's about 2 years old now, and you know it's cool to see that. It's cool that they're having like that my friends are having kids as well, families having kids. It's cool to see all that, but you know it's also different. Like I don't know, I don't even know how I was going with it, but it was just something that I thought of too. Like now that we're getting older, there's different things in life that are coming into play that you have to like kind of take in consideration. It's just interesting to see how everything's playing out. I'm sure my brother will be having a kid, and
Mr. Environmentally conscious. There's too many humans on this planet. He's like, I'm having at least 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna have my own kid though.
See,
everyone else is shitty, but I'm gonna have 4 of them myself.
Yeah, I'm thinking like 2 is a good target.
Yeah.
Though I mean the advantage of having as many as say Matt is sports, like
have your own team.
Have one, you know, one's going to play goalie and one's going to play defense. I mean, what it really I just want to be able to play hockey in my driveway and
with your crop of
school little kids, you know.
That'll be good. Yeah, man, I'm excited for that. So that'll be coming up. All right. For the ending section of the podcast, are you ready to get to that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, the end of this podcast is a section I do called Desert Island Questions. I'm sure you know, you listen to the podcast, you know where it comes from. But for people who don't know where it comes from, it comes from the greatest show of all time, The Office. I give everyone 3 categories and 3 choices for each category to take with them on a desert island to watch, read, and listen to over and over and over again. So the first category I give you is movies or something to watch. I have to change the actual like terminology that I use because like I say movies, but you could take TV shows, you know, whatever. So you get 3 choices.
So I definitely like when I listen to your podcast, I always think to myself, like everyone's like, "Oh man, I never really thought about that." I've listened to enough of yours that I've like overanalyzed this to the T.
I know.
So,
I'm
like,
interested to hear.
I got it figured out. So what are we starting with?
Movies. Can I guess first?
Yeah, go ahead.
So if I had to guess for you, I would say the Star Wars, every Star Wars.
Check.
Okay. I would say The Office.
Check.
And I would also say Seinfeld, but it was a hard choice between Seinfeld and Curb, but I think that there's more Curb.
This is creepy, man.
I think that there's more Curb to watch, and it's more relatable and not as dated, so I think you would choose Curb.
Okay. Star Wars, full saga, check.
Mm-hmm.
The Office, full everything, obviously, check.
Yeah.
Came down to the choice between Seinfeld and Curb.
Okay.
And in my mind, I decided as much as Seinfeld is iconic,
yeah,
Curb is more relatable to my life. And also Seinfeld has some duds early on.
Yeah.
Curb doesn't have any duds. And like that's like like if I'm watching it for eternity, I don't want to have to like fight through some of the stuff. So I'm going to go with Curb and then honorable mention Seinfeld.
All right.
You have absolutely nailed it, which is
all right.
I guess is a testament to how well you know me.
That's good stuff. I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean The Office,
I don't know, dude.
I'm about to finish up a full lap of The Office for like the 15th time.
Yeah, I'm on episode 24, season 7. So D'Angelo just pulled the basketball hoop down on himself, and he comes and goes, and that's it's just so good, dude. I don't get it. I don't get how people dislike it. And that's what's interesting. It's like sometimes I'll come up like people that I'm talking to, they'll be like, "Yeah, I ain't that into The Office." I'm just like, "Fuck, dude."
See,
my whole opinion of you just changed a little bit.
See, The Office is just like because most of us have pretty boring jobs.
Yeah,
and with boring people. Like The Office is like what we yearn for our jobs to be.
Exactly.
You want there to be exciting plot when you show up at work.
I was going to ask you that. I was like, so people that like The Office, I feel like a lot of those people, just like you said, have like a boring, monotonous job. You're in the office. those are your perfect scenarios of things that would happen. Like you wish you had someone that was like heating the door handles and setting off a fire. Like you wish you had that stuff, but instead it's just the same old cookie cutter boring ass shit.
They made it the most like boring company you can imagine on purpose. It's like it is that juxtaposition of like what should be just the most soulless, deathly job you ever had. And
that show is just like the ideas you have while you're working that job.
Yep. And you never act on them because you can't.
Never. It's just like
Michael Scott is no one's boss.
No one. And you wish you would. And did you ever notice in The Office, like he is always like their branch is always succeeding the most out of everyone.
That's what's like.
And he doesn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah,
and David Wallace is always like, why are you guys so good? And it's like, get the fuck, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Just step back a little bit. Yeah. And until we fuck up, don't like get off our fucking asses.
Yeah. I'm still like blown away that you absolutely nailed 100% of the list. I'm confident you won't be able to do so moving forward, but
yeah, I mean the
props
books
for pulling off.
So do you read a lot?
I used to read a lot. I audiobook now more than anything.
Okay, so
because
I give people either choices of books or audiobooks or video games. So you could choose which either of the categories.
I am very enticed by the option of picking video games.
Okay. You could do both if you knew them offhand.
So I'm gonna tell you 3 books.
Okay.
So first of all, Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
And if I can bring The Hobbit too, maybe that too.
Okay, yeah. Physician's text reference inside. I stole that from last week's guest, Maria. That was the best. I said, "What kind of books do you read?" She said, "Physician's text reference inside." It's so good.
Good old Dwight.
I never read any Lord of the Rings books, and I've honestly only seen the movies each probably one time.
The movies like barely scratch the surface of the books. It's like
that's what everyone says about Game of Thrones, Harry Potter.
Well, yeah. So then you bring me to number 2, which is, as you called it, Game of Thrones. But fun fact, actually, the name of the book saga is A Song of Ice and Fire. Most people don't know that.
Really?
Yeah. Game of Thrones is the name that was given to the TV show, but Game of Thrones is actually the name of the first book of the saga.
How many books are there?
There are 5 now.
And that he's getting.
Chances are it's never going to get finished.
He's probably going to die first.
He apparently has some apprentice who he's like bequeathed all of the
grooming.
Yeah, whatever. But and it's interesting because like you probably won't hear this from a lot of people who have read those books. I don't really think they're written that well. It's like in one of the more recent podcasts, you were talking about how like Stephen King will talk for an hour about a table or whatever.
I can't do that.
There's a little bit too much fluff with George R.R. Martin, and like he tries to make it sound extra fluffy.
Yeah.
Like the old kind of speak it, like it's like
extra shit that you don't need.
It's a little overwhelming, and there's like a few phrases he uses a lot, and it's like just kind of annoying. But like his brain is insane. The stories, how they all tie together. What would be perfect about that is that every time you would, because I've only gone through each of them once.
Yeah.
Because it's like a huge deal. They're like thousands of pages.
Yeah. How long does it take you to listen to one of them?
The 5th one was, I think, over 40 hours.
Yeah, because I remember my buddy Dylan listened to it, and he listened to like, I think he said it was like over a week he was listening to.
Yeah, I mean,
it just gets so, he said he was like, it gets boring as fuck.
See,
you don't want to hear 10 minutes about a fucking table.
Yeah, see, like with his books, sometimes it'll be by chapters. Certain chapters will be rough.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like every time you would go through that, you'd be like, oh shit, I never even caught that the last time.
Okay.
Like, this definitely is factoring into this.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and like, and Lord of the Rings it's super long and super colorful and interesting. Like,
yeah, I need to watch all the movies again for sure because I really have only seen them one time.
They're making it into a TV series. That's going to be where it's at because then it's really going to like get into it.
Yeah, because you don't have to shorten things up. I still definitely need to watch Game of Thrones, but like I'm just waiting until it's all done.
I'm sure you've probably got spoilers by now, though.
I mean, like I know about the Red Wedding, but like it's so far.
The thing about that's the problem with those stories.
It sucks because you have to wait for 4 years until the entire series is over. It's like I don't get how you could do that. And now I did catch up on Shameless. I never
watched that.
Oh, it's unreal. It's basically just a shitty white trash family that just, I mean, no matter what, there's just always shit happening to him. It's all just, it looks like it's just a bunch of hills. It goes up and down and up and down, up and down. It's either good, it's either the highs are real high, the lows are super low. But it's just like dark, emotional drama comedy. But William H. Macy is like an unreal actor, obviously. And the rest of the whole cast in there is just great. But it's a good show. But there's 9 seasons. They're working on their 9th season. And, me and Antoinette, for fucking 3 years, I'm begging her, please, let's watch Shameless, please. No, that's stupid. And then one day I just put it on and she's like, oh, this ain't bad. And then it's just like immediately we rip through it. But like, she won't watch Game of Thrones. And I'm sure you're the same way. If you you got a wife. So you guys, we come home from work, we eat dinner together, talk, and then we watch some TV, and then we go to bed. But you can't like drift off of what path you're on because like you and your wife are usually watching the same shit. You have your own guilty pleasures. Like I'm watching The Office at all times, and she's watching terrible shit too. But we have like a main show. Like we just finished Ozarks.
Oh, dude.
Did you watch the 2nd season?
Oh, yeah.
Unreal.
Oh, yeah.
Jason Bateman is a wild animal. I listened to him on Mark Maron. I think that he's exactly that character in real life, but not obviously not money laundering or killing people or anything.
That I know of.
But yeah, I don't know where I was going with it. But so you said Lord of the Rings, the Fire,
Song of Ice and Fire,
Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones.
Um,
What's the third choice?
Third choice, I'm gonna go with 1984.
Man,
I
that's
believe-
3 weeks in a row someone has said 1984.
Yeah, 1984 is
I've
getting
never
some
read
love
it.
in this podcast.
I've never read
First
it.
of all, it's an awesome book. And second of all, as I said, like I've probably overanalyzed these questions a little bit.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be stranded on an island, it might be a relief to read a book about like an oppressive government stomping your life.
Yeah, and you
it's
being
like,
able to be
what?
free.
I'm free.
I'll shit right here if I want.
So it wouldn't be so bad. Honorable mention, Mass Effect video game series.
Mass
Fabulous.
Effect.
Dark Souls video game series. Just enraging, makes you want to like punch a hole through the wall, but good stuff.
Now let me ask you a question. Would you rather take video games? Okay, here. This is a good question. A little side question. Would you rather take all the movies, all the video games, and all the books, or you could take your entire D&D collection and you could have one AI robot, just one AI robot that will play with you?
Probably the D&D AI robot. Honestly, because like
Endless.
it's
endless.
Yeah, it's an infinite,
Literally
amount of
endless.
entertainment.
You could watch that fucking movie 100 times and be bored of it. But D&D, you could go on forever.
Yeah, there's our little plug for D&D.
Yeah, guys. I mean, that's
We'll
a whole
knock it
different
till we
podcast.
try it.
I didn't even want to get into it with this podcast because like it would have took over the entire podcast because, Dungeons and Dragons, whenever you're younger, we make fun of it. We talk shit on it. You're fucking nerds for doing it. But, it's incredible. It's fucking awesome. And I haven't even played it in a year, but there was a year and a half where I was going pretty damn strong and it's so fun. But imagine if we would have played that shit whenever we were young at your house. We wouldn't have not turned out how we did. I'm really glad we didn't.
I always tell Amanda that, what if I was playing it in college?
If
She's
we
like,
played
no.
D&D whenever we were 12, 13 at your house, we would not be where we are today.
No. Yeah.
Or it would have been the cast. It would have been the line of Stranger Things, and we would just like find a Demogorgon or some shit.
Some crazy adventure.
Okay, so you got books and video games. Now the last category I give you is music.
Music. Okay, so I have a pretty wide range of taste. So I decided I would pick one that kind of hits on each of the different kind of major sections that I like. So first of all, I love live music. So actually 2 of my choices are live albums.
Okay.
First one's going to be How the West Was Won, Led Zeppelin.
Oh.
Just, I can listen to that one forever. For
Yeah.
sure. And that hits like the classic angle.
Okay.
Second live album, I'm going to go with Muse.
I knew it.
live at it's the Olympic Stadium in Rome.
I knew it.
So good. They made that into a movie, which I saw when it came out.
Yeah, I saw
awesome.
clips of it. I
So
saw
good.
clips of it.
Yeah, Matt Bellamy is just
An animal.
unreal live.
An animal.
And then for the third one, it's kind of a choice that most people probably wouldn't know that I would make. It's Core by Stone Temple Pilots.
Really?
The reason I choose Core, it's my favorite like pump you up album. I listen to it a lot when I'm at work, whenever I'm like trying to get into a flow.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to be stranded, like chopping down trees half the day and cracking open coconuts and that.
That's a good point.
I need something to get me going. And what's interesting about Core, I will never listen to like one song on Core or even listen out of order. Like
Yeah.
nothing pisses me off more than when I start listening to it on Spotify and I accidentally have shuffle on.
Yeah, shuffles.
For me, that album is like one big song. And like whenever it goes out of
A
order,
whole
it's
experience.
like twists me up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
What about an honorable mention?
Honorable mention definitely would be Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses. That's one of the most complete albums. Like I like every song on it.
Yeah.
Which that's somewhat
I'm sure
rare
it holds
with
a
albums.
nostalgic factor too.
And definitely that's what like made me get into guitar. And yeah, I just
For sure. Okay, I'm excited for this question. So second to last question is the death row meal.
Death Row Meal.
Yeah. So let me give you some guidelines. You can pretty much go wherever you want, get whatever you want. All right,
Yeah,
I'm about
I've
to
heard
shoot
some
you.
pretty intense. That some very
People will go everywhere.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure not too many death row inmates are getting that kind of treatment. But
Yes, they are.
was that right?
Do you ever read them articles about people that are about to die on death row? It's articles of people's last meals, last requests. If you're about to get executed the next day, they give you whatever you want the night before. Some guys ordered like I read all these. Who knows? They could be fake, but like someone ordered like 8 pizzas. Like they'll pretty much order whatever the fuck you want. Some guy ordered just one single. What was it? It was real weird. One guy ordered like one single like fortune cookie or some shit. People have really fucked up ways to do it.
What do you think?
Your food?
What do you think? Toothless guy from I Am a Murderer is gonna pick.
Oh my god, that's I'm a Killer. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm a Killer. Yeah.
The death row people.
Yeah, Netflix. Yeah.
Fuck, that's creepy. Rogan just had a guy named Nick Yaris on his podcast. He was a dude that got accused of raping and killing someone. All right. He was in jail for 22 years. He got accused of this whenever he was like 21, got out whenever he was like 43 off of, new breaks in technology with DNA. Dude was innocent.
You know what's crazy?
He was in death row for 20 some years. He talks about people beating him, raping him, all this shit. He's literally pouring out tears on
You better be
Rogan.
able to like sue the government for a ridiculous amount of money when that happens. I
Did
don't
you
know
see
how it works? But
some dude just got paid out millions of dollars because he got he was in prison for like 20 some years.
that being said, if all of us bros were in jail and we could play D&D, it wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, it would be like Goodfellas, like whenever they all have that big ass thing and they're all cooking meals and everything.
Chopping that, yeah. Wait, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. The one show on Netflix, ridiculous show, the American Vandal.
I haven't watched it yet. Everyone said it's awesome.
So the second one starts off with it has these stats. It's just like a little flavor in the beginning, and it says seriously says like in text on the screen. It's like since the dawn of DNA technology, X thousand people have been exonerated of crimes.
Yeah,
and then it says like 25% of them they admit they pled or they admitted their guilt.
Yeah,
because the way that like prosecution and everything works, you end up getting put in these situations where it's like you have no choice. This is going to be the better outcome for me. And it was 38%. Under age 18, it's 38%, which those stats are insane.
Insane.
But yeah, and then they weave that into the ridiculous stories. But it's pretty.
That's a good show. Everyone says pretty funny.
Yeah, it's something like
I hate that guy.
You just want to put something on.
I fucking hate that guy. That main guy.
So the first season, the guy who's supposedly guilty,
the guy who was on Guy Code or whatever. Yeah, the guy who supposedly wrote all the dicks.
Guy.
I fucking hate him. I don't know why, but I hate him. He's in a little. You ever see that? You know who Lil Dicky is? He's like a white rapper. He came out with a song called Freaky Friday with Chris Brown, and this dude is in the video. Anytime I see this motherfucker, I just want to choke him to death.
Well, season 2, it's a different guy.
All right.
Just in case.
He was his name was Rooster, and he was in 21 Jump Street, the second one.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he was in there. Huh. Anyway.
Popping them assholes.
All right, death row meal.
It's tough between sushi and chicken parm.
Have both.
But I would rather just eat myself totally sick on sushi from Nakama. Just like...
Nakama?
Yeah.
Nakama is definitely not my favorite sushi. My favorite sushi in the city is either Taipei, Tokyo, and Monroeville, or...
Oh, yeah, that's real good.
Taipei, Tokyo, or Monroeville, or
That's
Yokoso.
a nice spot.
Yokoso still has some of the best sushi of all time. Their spicy tuna rolls, to die for.
See, but... what is it called? Cherry Blossom. They got it in Nakama. Oh my God.
I'm not down there enough to go have sushi at Nakama. Like,
I mean, it's a ripoff. It's so expensive.
Yeah. It is,
I
but
mean,
like...
If the state's paying for it, then...
That's a good point.
Go for it.
Yeah, if the state's paying for it. Okay, so we got the death row meal. All right, and the last question of anything. Now, I always ask people if there was anyone alive or dead. If you could have this conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why? Now, I'm going to break this up into 2 categories because usually people will pick family. So if you want to pick family, that's fine. But I want to know someone that you're not related to.
All right, well... My answer is definitely my old best friend Rob.
Yeah, I assumed that.
Yeah,
Rob Orange, rest in peace.
Yeah, quick backstory. He was my best friend growing up. We went to school, we were best friends since age 6.
Yeah.
Went to all the same schools from start to finish. After once college began, he went to Villanova. And for the record, this is a dude who is one of the smartest guys in my class. He finished like 8th or something like that.
Higher than you?
I was just ahead of him. But went to Villanova, got a degree in chemical engineering, the third best school for that in the country. And he got in. Villanova is just like a real bro-y rich kid school, I guess. And there was a whole lot of parties where kids are bringing in bowls of pills and shit like that. And so he started fucking around with painkillers, ended up getting hooked. And, he was really distant during that time. And he never ever admitted anything to me. He never even, this is a guy who after he died, I found out was in rehab multiple times.
Yeah.
And the one time he told me he took this contract job for ridiculous money to go work in Qatar or something like that.
Yeah.
Turned out he was going to rehab.
Really?
It's just to be so close with somebody and then at the end of his life, not even know him at all. And talking to his girlfriend, she said that he just was he was ashamed and didn't want to talk about any of it.
Obviously.
It's whenever I found out that he OD'd and died and dude's doing heroin, blew me away.
Yeah.
Never would have ever believed that. And in my head, all I would ask myself is just why didn't this dude ever come to me? Why didn't he ever talk? I wish that I could have had that talk with him to be yo, I'll help you out,
There's nothing that you could say really, though, the majority of the time. Imagine there's people who, steal from their mothers and their kids.
Yeah.
And, that's just something that we will never understand. And, I honestly want to get an addict on here to speak with them just about, someone who was in the thick of it and kind of made it out. Just so I could kind of get an idea. There's a guy that I know that I went to high school with, and he struggled for a minute on with heroin for a long time, and I recently just caught up with him, and he's a few months sober, and after me and him see each other a bunch of times because I would see him at the store I was working at. He's yeah, man, I'm just going to meetings, trying to keep my nose clean and stay out of trouble. I asked him, I was like, what is it like that it's so hard? And he was just dude, it's seriously you're possessed. He was there's nothing in the world that will ever stand in front of you from getting to that. Doesn't matter if it's your wife, your mother, your grandmother, doesn't matter. You're just possessed. And it's a fucking it's heartbreaking because you got people like Rob, you got fucking, it doesn't matter if you have money or not. Look at fucking people like Mac Miller. Like, I mean, he's dead now too, and it's fucked up because that's something that we will, unless you are an addict, you're never going to understand what goes on in their mind. Even if it's someone that you're best friends with, even if it's your
it's
brother.
hard to realize how rampant it is and how it's like literally all around you
and how uncontrollable it is.
Somebody like that, like somebody, a chemical engineer, ends up ODing on heroin. It's just like I thought, like, you know, snaps on the street are the ones who were doing heroin.
Yeah, man, but there's functioning people that are doing it all the time. Yeah. And it's fucked up because, like, and I think a lot of it is shame. Like, the reason, I mean, that dude would have taken a bullet for you, but like the reason he doesn't tell you about that, he probably didn't want you to be ashamed of him, which is definitely understandable now that you think about it, because I've had friends that have died because of that. And it's like, I'll think of that stuff. And, you know, I used to be the type of dude that was like, you know, fuck people that are doing heroin. Like, yins are fucking trash. Like, you started it, you did it. Right. And like, I used to have that mindset, but like, the more I see all these people like passing away because of this, the more I tend to like realize, like, to try to like go back to what I originally thought and kind of reevaluate that. And I agree 100% that it's a disease and people don't understand it, but like, I don't know, I still have a fact, like up until that point of you doing the drug, I believe it's all on you. But right after you do that drug the first time, I think it's out of your control.
I mean, some people, it even, you know, it's like they get surgery or something. And
and like, obviously there's like situations where like
those are the people who really, it's just, what can you even do? Yeah,
it's fucked up because those are the people that don't even intend on that happening. But, you know, the pharmaceutical, big pharma, just, you know, just poisoning our youth. Anyway, Jesus, we fucking ended on this badass, like, depressing note. But I mean, it is. It's a fucking shame. But I want to talk to someone who was an addict on here because
I can't wait to listen to it.
I think it would be interesting because I feel like every person that you know knows someone who is struggling with it or has struggled with it or has lost their battle with it. And even me, like, I have some family members that are in jail right now because of the ways heroin intertwined in her life and you know, she got caught up on some shit, and I hope that things go well for her, but it's fucked up. Nice. We ended it on a wonderful, real positive note.
Hey man, it's real life.
That's real life. That's the main point. This fucking podcast is real life, and no one knows where it's going to go. And if you like it, I'm glad you guys like it, but if you don't, quit listening, because I don't fucking care. I do appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
I thought it was a good episode. I was, honestly, I was most interested talking about your dad. I never knew some of that shit about him. I would love to have him on here.
I wish I could just download all of his memories and stories, because even I barely know any of it.
Yeah. Imagine the shit that we don't know about our dads that like haven't told us yet. We probably won't hear for another years until they're about to die or something. Yeah. Hey, under the steps, I got $100,000 in gold bars that I stole from the Mexican cartel. Something crazy. All right, I appreciate it. You don't have now that we do this, you don't have Facebook anymore. Something I wanted to bring up beforehand, but how good do you feel that you don't have Facebook anymore?
It's funny that it's not even that I feel good. I just don't feel annoyed. And it's like, it's not for the first like week or so, you know, like I'd go to take a shit. I'm like, all right, see what the hell's happening. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I don't have the app anymore. Oh shit. After that, you don't even know you don't have it.
What do you do now that whenever you take a shit? Watch YouTube?
Get like shitty games, like puzzle games. Oh my
God, that's the worst. Playing fucking.
I do actually. Loftus.
My mother plays solitaire on her 5C. iPhone 5C. She can't see where shit. She's playing solitaire on this little ass screen. Nuts.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the biggest, like, Facebook, it just, especially as you get older, it just ends up being like, it gets so narrow.
It's depressing, dude.
And half of it is just shit. It just pisses you off or depresses you when you read it. It's like,
That's why I stay off of politics. I stay off of like any of my beliefs. I'll share a video of a fucking dog throwing up or something, or a dog chasing after something, but very rarely I'll get in depth with anything on there. But that's because everyone just feels like they have to put every fucking thought that they have on Facebook, and it's ridiculous. All right. I appreciate it. You don't have nothing to plug.
Let's go Pens. Season's about to begin.
Yeah, let's go Pens. October 4th is the first game, right?
Yeah, we got to figure out the ticket situation.
Yeah, we do. Let's talk about that after this. All right, everyone. Listen. Oh, Jesus, that was quick. All right, everyone. All right, everyone. I appreciate everyone listening as usual. Episode 37. 37 weeks in a row. Haven't missed a fucking week for you guys. Follow me on social media at I'll Call You Right Back on Instagram. Check out some shit on there. At ICYRB Podcast on Twitter. I'm going to try to get more involved on Twitter. I don't use it too much. I think it's stupid, but I'm going to try to jump on there a little bit more. Facebook, YouTube, I'll Call You Right Back Podcast, or you could email me at I'll Call You Right Back at Gmail, and let me know what you like about the podcast, what you dislike, if there's people you want to hear on here. Tell me I'm a piece of shit, whatever you want to do. I do appreciate you guys listening, but I'll call you right back.